Minecraft because they got all their chores done this morning.
Serious.
Well, I'm hoping it only takes like an hour because we're just going to talk about just the markets and we're going to figure out all the bylaw stuff later. Because there's so much other stuff that has to go with that.
Yeah.
And then just an update on the tokens. I've been researching that from the ground. So apparently, like almost all those tokens, we as individual vendors can do.
Yes.
From the ground, basically, is trying to make it so that it's more like a kit, complete service that they provide.
Yep.
So I think we could tentatively offer tokens, but I think for this year, because in order to be to do it like from the ground, we need to have our IRS documents approved and put in. But for us to provide instructions to other people on how to do it individually for themselves, that's something we can do. And then I'm going to be calling Aspirus, to figure out how that one's going to work, because I don't think they're going to require the IRS documents. They just kind of, basically last week I built a list, phone numbers, processes for how to do each and every token.
Nice.
And then this next week is going to be the execution. That way I could figure out what was going to be actually doable by this summer versus what's not. Because I'm not sure if you guys know, but this Monday they are voting on the Hancock Tory Green Market at the Hancock DDA.
Oh.
Did Todd Gass tell you that? So that's unfortunate. Todd Gass didn't tell a single one of us that they were going to be voting on it at a public meeting going on Monday. So luckily, I get all the emails from Hancock and I read them all. Thanks, Todd. And,
I'd like to get on that email list.
Yeah. So when we send like a minutes, I'll send the link to get on the Hancock mailing list.
Nice.
So when and where?
Hancock.
Is it the church?
The meeting chambers right next to the church.
Okay.
You basically go in that building, up some stairs, and then you
Okay.
go down, and then you're in the Hancock City Council chamber. I believe it starts at 6 p.m.
Okay.
And then what I'll do is I'm going to also send the DDA meeting agenda on that same email.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Because first they're going to cover old business, like some facade grants for the local businesses. And then, and then under new business, consider future plans for summer Hancock Tory Farmers Market on Quincy Green.
Right.
And so what we'll want to do is speak at the initial public comment right at 6 p.m. That way, whatever we say influences their discussion that they have, because then we can't speak again until the very end of public comment. So ideally what we do is public comment, lay it all out, they talk. I don't know if they'd be voting that same evening. I don't know if they would need to put it on the agenda or if someone would need to make a motion. But then any outstanding questions they may have, we could then address at the ending closing. Ideally, by the ending closing statement, we don't need to say anything and it's a slam dunk. And I've already talked to some of the members on the board and they're all for it.
Oh, good.
So I've already done a little bit of politicking and talking to people and they're all for
That's
it.
what the
For
president.
the Saturday market.
Yeah.
For Saturday?
Yeah, for the Saturday market.
And do they have a like a public comment agenda item only, and then anything, or do they split it out?
They just put general public comment.
Okay, so
That's
you don't
actually
see anything.
something Hancock's been getting flack for, is because they'll have a general public comment, then they'll talk about something like really important, and then they will vote on something, and then the public feels like they don't have a chance to like kind of further the dialogue on that specific issue.
I just want to make sure they don't even get locked out for talking about something that's not on the agenda. Like the Bergen County Board has agenda items only public comment, and then after the meeting, public comment on anything, so.
Oh, no, only for special meetings. If
Okay.
it's a special meeting with a special topic, then they restrict people what they talk about. Otherwise, we can go up there and I could be like, Shiba Cafe, any day now, you guys. Yay, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, once again, yeah, any day, I swear.
Wouldn't it be limited by like 3 minutes or something?
They put the 3-minute limit on the city council. I don't think they voted in the same restrictions on the DDA, but
I can't talk 3 minutes anyway.
Yeah. And then I can go on for well past 3 minutes, but I talk
know.
fast enough.
So are you?
You're not supposed to laugh too, honey.
So are you gonna propose the Saturday market at that meeting?
Yeah, I already have a script kind of ready to go on that.
Okay.
That also addresses the issues that they're having, which is, are you going to be competing? Are you going to be offering the same tokens? What are you going to be doing different than the other ones? And then that's also what this meeting is for, because there's some stuff that I'd like to do, like changing arts and crafts vendors to a commission-based as opposed to paying up front, making it be free for anyone under the age of 18 to sell.
Oh, there you go.
But stuff like that I want to,
And the
run
nonprofits
through.
get a space. Like if I got approached by
Nonprofits,
Chassel,
yeah.
nonprofits get a space. Like we just said we waived their fee in Chassel because they had a nonprofit.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if that's something that you've thought about yet for that.
Well, ideally, I think they're going to give us the green for free. And then what I'm going to also bring up at the meeting is ask them how much to have their guys come and bring the tents, right?
Right. So Hancock owns their tents. Dead Man put in a grant to buy all the tents and tables. And they used to have the Department of Public Works set up the tents for us, which was awesome.
Right.
But when Hancock joined from the ground, that's where the budget went to, was to pay the money from the ground rather than paying Public Works to set up the tents.
Right.
Can we get that back to in public works so that I'd rather
That-
have
that-
it set up than get us money.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, that's.
And we're going to
that's
ask
one
them
of the-
basically how much.
Right,
And then we
how much
account
will
for that
it
in
cost
fundraising.
so we
Okay.
can, because, yeah, I think vendors wouldn't mind paying $20 for the season if they could get their tent set up every week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, without question, absolutely.
Because if that is one less thing.
Yeah, just to not have to carry that, it's worth it.
Stickers.
Right.
Did you want the same marketing stuff that we used for the indoor one, for the summer one? Like I could redo or use the same one if you wanted to. All the flyers, the design work, or would you want something different for summer
I don't-
versus indoor? Or?
Well, we definitely don't want like snowflake.
Yeah,
themed and
yeah.
stuff, but,
But like I was thinking it was
in
like
terms
just changing that image, right?
It is
Like, so
Michigan
instead of
style.
a snowflake, we could change it to
Oh
something
yeah, in
else.
terms of structure, yeah, I don't, I
Okay.
mean, it's like, hey, we're gonna be selling stuff over here. I don't think we
Yeah.
even necessarily need to put the type of items that we'd be selling. And
Okay.
just, literally that way it's just location, time, date, and
Okay.
it's just as minimalist as possible.
You want me to get that to you?
Yes, please,
I
actually.
can do that before Monday.
That would be
so-
great, yeah.
Okay.
So are we thinking like the first week of June through the last week of September, basically?
I think that keeps things simple.
That's
It
what
seems
we
like
do.
May, we always like, something goes with the weather.
Right.
Starting mid-June, I feel like is almost too late because sometimes we seem
No,
to
I
have
know.
good weather beginning
Right,
of June.
right.
Right, yeah.
And then when you get into October, the weather gets.
Yeah.
And generally the traffic tapers off.
Well, in the first 2 weeks of June, we found where people were selling plants. Like that is the prime time of people putting in their
Like
gardens.
transplants.
Sometimes it's a little bit more. Sometimes it's a little bit
Nice
later.
business at Chassel from the plant
Yeah.
buyers.
Yeah, and I would highly recommend and like
Yeah.
promote the planting at first. So one of my ideas this year is to try to do something like a seed starting thing for the first 2 weeks. Is hey, come grab some seeds. 'Cause I have an excess amount of seeds.
There you go.
Like bring your own pot to put your seeds in, or grab some seeds and take them home and plant. But just something to engage the kids in the community, I think would be huge as well.
You set up a little booth, have kids sow their
Like
own
the-
seed.
Yep.
Yeah, depending with the restaurant, if I have time, that's stuff I used to do with the kids a lot, so.
Well, and
I don't
even
know.
having high schoolers or like college students come down, anybody that wants to volunteer to sit behind the table and show kids how to plant a seed, like,
Well, since we're a nonprofit, we can now sign off on hours for the college. So one of the things that I'm gonna do is once this is formal, I'm gonna reach out to Michigan Tech and be like, hey, we're a nonprofit. I'll reach out to some of the like social sciences departments and say like, if kids are looking for a project for hours, a final thing, like, let's be creative. Let's, have them make a business plan for, having people come through here or something like that. Or just have them go to a farmer's market once a week and then we can sign off and give them hours for that.
yeah, the forestry and then the fraternities and sororities. Those are all ones that require
Community
Hours.
service.
hours.
Is there a mailing list that goes to all of those different?
Not that I can give you.
Well, that's where I found like going through the food bank at Michigan Tech. I found is the best thing because you can't be an outside entity, but if you get an inside entity to sort of sponsor you, and I found the food bank to be very receptive to the farmers markets.
Yeah,
I might
tip
be able to
you.
get us on TEEK's, ADA's, and DU's email lists, because I know some alumni that are part of those.
Yeah, you could reach out to GSG too, they might even share it too.
The Grad Student Association? I'm gonna assume that's what that,
Yeah.
okay.
Graduate student government,
Grad Student Government?
yeah.
Okay.
So they would be one that you could probably say, hey, like, I got this idea, like,
Oh,
you
they
guys
might
need
be
any
able to get
volunteer
on
time?
all of the Greek lists.
For all the graduate side, I don't know about undergrad side, because I know that they only do graduate stuff.
So for, I guess, time's sake, should I just send a Google Doc out to everyone and then everyone just put in recommendations on things that we can reach out to and then,
Yeah, why don't we start a Google Sheet, and then we can just keep going, with ideas of who to reach out for what, and kind of, then we can have a tally too, of like, if, for instance, if you're away for a week on vacation, like if anybody needs to pick up anything or so a phone call comes in, we can leave a note and update on there. Because I think that'll help. It helps me stay on track, because I tag myself in things and give me due dates. They go on my calendar.
That's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
So, yeah, so if you could create a Google Sheet, and then even if you just had just headers or leave it blank for your ideas right now, and we can all edit.
And that way we're not all, like, 6 of us reaching out to one person and overwhelming
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we could even do a tab for like volunteer hours, and then a tab for like sponsorships. So then we keep track of who we've all gotten sponsorships from, who has been asked, who says no, who says maybe next season. That's what we did for robotics, and that really.
that sounds good. Yeah, we'll just make a few docs and then, we can even make a form that we can send out once we connect with these organizations, like, hey, interested in volunteering or signing up? Because right now I just have my email, and then, well, actually, I need to change that on the website to the Keweenaw Market email. And for those who didn't see, KewenaWmarket@gmail.com. I don't know how I got that one, but we got it.
I know, I was wondering that. I'm like, oh, he actually got.
I'm shocked that no one
Like,
around
no one
here,
has used that ever. That's a
it
surprise.
blew my mind, but
Yeah.
it's just like the website, KewenaWmarket.com. I was just like, no one?
Yeah,
Signing you up for auto renew.
right?
You're
Yep.
letting that one slip.
Yeah, because I think I own HoughtonMarket.com.
HoughtonMarket.com.
And I was thinking about, I was like, I wonder if Chessel has it, or Hancock Market, if that's a notable place.
Huh.
That might be one to snatch up.
It's like that one comedian, Sam Hyde. He has the @SNL for Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, wow, a random dude now has the entire SNL's like. They probably have
Yeah.
already tried to buy it off him too.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in terms of paid advertising, because it seems like the free advertising, it's like that old saying, like the best advertising it always ends up being free advertising. Is it what's the
Yeah.
paid?
So I paid a lot for social media, and I did most of ours. Like the majority of it went to Facebook, but I wanted to really shoot out to Instagram this year.
Yes.
And so my thought is for Chassel anyway, I have the different social medias that we have, the ones I'd like to expand to, and then I'm gonna put a message out to our vendors and say, hey, like, is anybody really good at this or that or this, and like, would you mind volunteering to kind of create content for me for that? Because I don't have one, time to create that content, and then
You
two,
can pass it along to me.
I was gonna say.
You can definitely, I'm pretty
Yeah.
good at getting to learn the social media
Yeah.
and doing that stuff like
well, I didn't wanna like.
No,
throw
no,
everything at
absolutely.
you.
No. And I like doing that kind of stuff. Like I'm
Yeah.
starting to understand the TikTok thing, and that's huge,
Mhm.
especially if we're going to students and some
Yeah.
younger folks. So
Yeah, I heard that some of them are that generation, that's how they find things these days.
Yes.
Their Google.
Instagram
Yes.
and LinkedIn.
Yep.
That's what I found out from the graduate
That's that
students.
good.
Those
Yep.
two is where they go constantly.
Yeah,
Like,
more professional.
Yeah, LinkedIn, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a big one. I know, right? I'm learning this too.
I
yeah.
guess it's gone beyond just job stuff.
it's all networking.
It is. That's what it is.
Oh.
It's all networking.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I gotta do Shiba Cafe. Like I've started releasing Shiba Cafe stuff to TikTok, and I'm surprised at how many people like find stuff there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all right, fair enough.
So I'll create a Google Doc with all the social media
Yeah.
stuff, and then we could even use that for KMA as like.
I was
say,
gonna
hey,
say, I
like,
have a
this is what
few that
Chess is
he
doing.
had sent me some of the
Yeah.
things for
I
the.
created an Instagram.
Yep.
Keweenaw Market Association. I guess we'll just try to get the same one at TikTok.
Yep.
And then I don't think. Did I make a Keweenaw Market Facebook yet? I don't think I did.
No, I think we just had the Houghton Indoor one
Houghton.
event page.
So should we just
Yeah.
use that one and change it to Keweenaw, or should we make a different one?
You should probably use the same one, there's already like more than 300 people on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
just
okay.
change the name.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll just change the name then.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
what needs
and that way I don't have to do more administrative stuff.
Exactly.
Because she has access to the Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
email, and website now.
Okay. Make sure on the Facebook one when you change the name that you change the URL.
Yes.
Because I can't stand the amount of times I have to like type in 0092 question mark exclamation point like
Yes.
to tag people. I'm like,
Yes.
just write your name.
I know I'm stuck with Superior Cupcakes 906 because somebody has
That's fine.
it, and it's,
It's locked down somewhere.
yeah. The person's had the page forever, but they don't
Yeah.
even use it. So, give me the page.
No, I have Crafty Uber locked down. I'm not letting go of that one.
Yeah.
My
No,
kids might want to do
absolutely.
something with that one day.
That's gonna be the new thing the generations passed on. Son, I want you to have my Instagram handle. Oh geez. So I guess how much are we looking at cost for advertising for both Hancock and
How much did we spend last year?
yeah? And would we just assume the same cost for doing both of them because we're cross promoting them?
That's kind of what I was thinking. I also want to make sure that like what we think. I guess I need to know from as a board how much would Chassel be paying into KMA, like for like our like a membership fee or whatever, because we kind of. I'm trying to budget all this right now, and I know
Right,
that
we
just
need to
had all
come
that.
up with the financial model that
Yeah.
we want to use.
Then that's going to be the rest of today because ideally at the Hancock meeting we tell them what we want to charge
Right.
for it. That would go a long way, and just the amount of people now starting to email me asking about markets.
Yeah.
I'd
Right.
like to have something.
Yeah.
So I assume it would be just advertising and whatever else divided by 2. And then on top of that, whatever the individual markets want to do. Like the Hancock market, they'd have their own budget for the DPW coming out and setting stuff up.
Right.
Chassel, the booth
The,
fee.
the pavilion, right?
Yeah, the pavilion is a big one.
And
So
what if it ends up being the same, we end up paying $500 for the tent to
If
come
it's
out.
$500 for them to set up the tents all
Mhm.
season long,
It's a good deal.
that's a bargain.
yeah. Well, then, so here's the things that we spent money on with Chassel. One, we bought the rack cards, which we decided we think we're either not doing or we can decide what we want to do. For 1,500 rack cards, it cost us $268.
Right.
So we can decide if we want to do that, like how we had the front side be one and the back side be other, or whatever we want to do. And then the market bags were a huge hit. We bought 1,000 of those, or no, 150 market bags last year, and those cost us $273. I think those are worth it, and we could put
Oh,
both
yes.
logos on
Yes.
it, and then we can
Oh,
figure
all
out.
the business sponsorships can go on
Yeah.
there, and that's what
Yes.
they'd be willing to pay way more for a business sponsorship if it went on a tote bag.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the more we order, the cheaper it is. And the place that I got it from, the setup fee was $5, and shipping cost me $10.
That's
Like,
like, for
it was like-
150 bags, that's real good up here.
Yeah, yep. So, and then,
Yeah, I'm paying a lot for I'm trying to get tote bags from the restaurant. It's like I'm not getting them that cheap.
we do every year put in a ad in the Strawberry Festival booklet. We pay $50 for that. I don't know if we want to do that as KMA and have both. We can address that because money.
For $50, that's cheap enough that.
Yeah,
I think it'd be
Yeah.
I think so.
for the amount of booklets that we print, or the Lions Club print. We print 3,000 booklets that go out. Some of them shipped outside of Michigan as well.
Nice.
We spent $550 last year on online marketing that included Facebook and Instagram, mostly Facebook. But I tried to do some of both. And then we had miscellaneous ones, which were like extra holders for the rack cards. We did the laminator and the laminating sheets. So all together, for all the marketing expenses last year, it was $1,384 is what we spent. Which it was a big year because we did increase a lot of what we were trying to do. But even if you did $1,400, it's $700 worth of
Leeway.
like from both sides if
Right.
we split it in half. But at the same time, like I think getting the cost down, because last time like Chassel was absorbing all of this and
Right.
trying to address. I do know that we will be charging our normal amounts that we charged previously. I have to come up with that, like to re-put that $500 back in the account and then get you from the winter market and any other like advertising expenses and stuff like that. So yeah, so we're gonna have some income. I wish we could get Chassel to to pitch in some, it'd be nice, but, if Hancock was willing to pitch in some, and we could even put their name on,
Right.
like sponsored by Hancock DDA, like, or City of Hancock.
Right.
I'm fine with that. We could do, it adds a little bit more cost to do a double-sided bag. But I can get prices for Monday to know how much it would be for that.
Yeah, because I think that's gonna be the number one,
Swag,
yeah.
advertising.
Well, and
Pro
too,
for
like,
it.
I'm thinking that with those bags,
Because I did see them all summer.
Yeah.
People brought them back, they were used.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
they were used,
They
and
were
not
absolutely
just at the
used.
Castle Market.
No, I saw them in Lake Linden too, people had
Yeah.
them. So they,
And they were at Calumet, and they were at.
yeah, they made their way around, so
Yeah.
people do actually
Yeah.
use them, so
and that's
that's,
something that we could go to the grocery store and say, hey, like, do you wanna put a coupon in
yeah.
for our swag bag, like, trying to get up back to the thing, if Aspirus wants to do a coupon for healthy, I know that Portage has some healthy
Yeah.
living coupons, but that's something that they could put in there.
Right.
And then as a market, like, so if we just say everyone at Chancellor turns in theirs to the KMA, someone with us takes it to them and like, we can reimburse somehow, or however that works, I don't know how their $5
Things.
coupon worked last year, but
Right.
everybody, I had so many phone calls asking, and there were people that didn't come to our market in Chancellor because we didn't accept those, which sucks, but at the same time, I wasn't in a place to be able to do it. I know individual vendors can sign up for it, there's a form they can sign up.
Maybe that's something we can put on the website too.
We can-
Anything that has links or individual vendors can do, we can promote it, put it on the website, have the links for vendors that are
Provide a little
interested.
guide for them.
Yeah, good stuff, just
Cliff
like do
notes.
like a guide or something like that, I could probably come up with something.
I was gonna
Like
say,
a
we
vendor
have-
page.
Yeah, because we have a vendor information page
Yep.
on Chancellor's site.
Yep. Yeah, cause I can link that or, you know,
Yeah.
Hancock's vendor page or just make it
Well, yeah, and we
full.
can have a KMA vendor information,
Yep,
and I
like
can just link to that.
resources and.
Yeah, I can change the tab on the website from market policies to vendor information.
Yeah,
And then I need a Google Doc where we list out all the different places to reach out to, because that can get very confusing very quickly. And then some of this, like Aspirus, I want to ask them about tokens and ask them about advertising at the same time.
Now that we are a 50, or we are a nonprofit, we can start applying for the Portage Health Foundation grants.
Yeah.
I don't know who
Yep.
wants to start.
I do grant writing, so I'm
Okay.
fine with that. Yeah.
When I talked to Sarah, she said it's really easy, you just have to
Yeah.
state what you're using it for, and she's gotten, I think, typically around $1,000
yeah.
for stuff for the market, which would go huge
So
for this.
would we be able to redeem that for anything, or do they have specific like material, like the tote bags, for instance? That's a material thing, as opposed to advertising, which
I
is a
don't-
intangible thing.
I think she used it for tents and stuff.
Yeah, I
but
don't
know.
really,
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it went into her budget.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think it could probably go towards the Trestle Pavilion rental, it could probably go towards the cost to have,
Green.
Well, I think that's what I'll do is I'll
yeah.
get the cost of the green to have the tent set up and the cost of the
Yeah.
pavilion,
Yeah.
and then
That was
I'll
one of my-
just,
That's one of my favorite
because with
things
grants,
about
I don't
it.
like giving them laundry lists. I like, just cover these two things with us and we're good. And grant people like that. So if I can say, hey, if you could just cover the pavilion cost for Chassel and the tent setup cost for the DPW for Hancock, and then
That's
from their
huge, yeah.
perspective, like, so the only money you want is for us to put money into the local governments, like, okay,
Okay,
that means we
yeah.
get a tax write-off on our tax write-off, so, cool.
Well, and
Yeah.
yeah, and if they say, like, you put in a little thing on the bottom, like, if you guys donate this much or more, then we can put you as a sponsor on our tote bag.
Yeah.
Because they always like to have their big at the,
Oh yeah, they put their logo on everything.
yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Okay,
So-
yeah, I'll think of how to gracefully ask for that and make it a nice bulk type thing. Yeah, because if we could get,
If we could get that paid for, and your guys'
Right.
thing paid for, like, that's huge. And then the next biggest thing is those bags for the costs other than like social media marketing, which
Right.
The bags
that's where
would be good.
vendor fees can really kick in for that.
I don't even think I think
I'm
the
not
bags,
sure we-
just private, like, I'm, like, Sheba Cafe and Keweenaw Mushrooms, like, again, I'm willing to put 200, and that's almost the cost. You're willing to put down for bagels, so
Yeah.
I think we can
Yeah.
self-fund the bags. We
Yes.
can get a grant to cover we'll call it the government costs,
Okay.
and then we'll just use any other fundraising and dues to pay for the social
The
media marketing.
Okay.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to take people's money for
Yeah.
what a racket that is.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna tweak our algorithm for you. $500, please.
Well, and then
Especially
that
if we
brings
have
me
other
a
markets.
question of if we did get this grant, then do we lower the Chassel cost because we have the grant, or do we say, hey, it is what it is right now, and any money that comes in this year goes in to help buffer for
From an
rollover, yeah.
next
From
year?
an optics thing, if people hear we get a big grant from the big dog of, West UP, like, I think they're gonna wanna know that trickled down to them in some shape or form.
Yes.
I
I
think,
agree.
even if it's from like $40 to $20,
Right.
I think,
Right.
and right now,
You
I
could drop it $10, even the littlest
Something.
bit does make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So then, if we got, and James, maybe as someone else, as a vendor at Chassel, I would like to know your input. If we got the grant to cover the pavilion costs, if we charge 20 for our spots, would you guys charge 20 for your spot, and then we just say,
Yeah.
hey, because we're part of the KMA, this is our fees for this year?
it would make things so much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Flat.
it's up to the individual committees
Yeah.
to decide. But if the individual committees are on board with it, then yes, then KMA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure we go
Right.
through the proper
Yeah,
process.
that would be the,
What do you think? There's a lot of information, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm just worried.
I think since we don't have a paid manager, if we get too low, we have a lot of odds and ends we have to manage at the market. I would propose a 40, 50 at Chassel like it was last year, 40 for 50 for new. Hancock start at 50, and then next year, if the Hancock committee decided 40, 50 would be good, do that. And I'd say a 10 or maybe even a $10 drop in minimum, maybe even more. If you have, like, we've had a kind of a scatter shot, and it's okay, it just makes more work. To have, if the person decides last minute, I'm gonna drop in the Chassel, it lands on the unpaid manager to say, where am I gonna put them? I gotta collect the money off them, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. So to penalize, for lack of a better term, somebody just jumping in and out anytime they feel like it, make them pay for the inconvenience that they caused an unpaid market manager, is kind of what I'm thinking.
I hear what you're saying.
If you go, somebody comes in, and it's not to necessarily make it, to make them pay for their inconvenience. We had one, I think in the first year at Chassel, somebody who'd been there quite regularly didn't show up. So Mariah said, we got an open spot, she didn't show up, she didn't call, she didn't text or anything. She put somebody else in there, then the lady showed up, and it was a kind of a flap, and it's like, sorry.
Yeah.
If you wanna be here, you call and say, I'm running 10 minutes late. If you
I've
don't
done it.
call, then, sorry, your spot's maybe taken to somebody else,
I've done the act, I'll just
So-
stick here on the end since I'm
that's
late
kinda
so I
what
can
I'm
sneak
thinking
in.
Is there has to be,
Yeah,
there
that
should
makes
be
sense.
some fee, and then if somebody comes in, moves out of the area, from out of the area, moves in July, great, and they wanna go the rest of the week, pay the yearly fee of 40 or 50, whatever it is, and let it roll. You pay the whole year ahead of time, you get the $3.13 per market.
Right.
If you wanna say, well, I'll jump in and out on my schedule when I want to, I'm not gonna call, I'm not coming, I won't be here, I'm not gonna bother calling because I don't feel like it. I guess I'll jump in at last minute, then you gotta pay that unpaid market manager, you're not paying her, but you gotta make it worth the inconvenience to deal with you, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And on one thing on top of that is
Fair.
the prime time scalpers. The people who don't want to contribute towards the general market, they're just like, oh, Strawberry Fest week, I want a vendor on that week right there. Like, they should have to pay, not necessarily a premium, but
Right.
they shouldn't be charged the same rate as someone who's willing to be there from the beginning of June to the end of September, which contributes more to the market. We don't need to take it to the point of, from the ground where we straight up discourage people
Right,
from
right.
wanting to.
Yeah.
But I think
Just-
there needs
just-
to be something.
And then there's
Yeah.
an incentive to say, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna come half the markets of the year, or 3/4, or whatever. There's an incentive for me to pay, to get $3.13 a market, rather than I'm gonna pay $10 when I jump in my scatter shot approach. I think there has to be something, otherwise it's,
Wouldn't it just make everybody pay either you're a brand new vendor of $50 or your current vendor of 40? And like, if you come in for 1 week and you spend 40, it's 40, and then you can come for the rest of the season or not.
No,
Like,
I don't want to discourage like.
that's kind of what I would, do. I'd say 40, 50, and if the Hancock committee decides that 50 this year, 40, 50 next year, $10 drop in. If you drop in, it doesn't guarantee you're gonna get the same spot you had last week.
Yes.
If you
Oh,
want-
definitely
If you
not.
wanna, lock in
Your
your
vendor is
spot, you
that-
wanna lock
yeah,
in your
that's
thing,
the
then you
bonus
pay
to
the
it, yeah.
$50, so here's your slot.
Here's your spot, here's your
If
thing.
you don't show up and you say, I'm not gonna be here for 3 weeks, hey, if you wanna stick some drop-ins in there, go for it, whatever. But, you know, if I wanna be an inconvenience to somebody, for lack of a better term, then I have to expect to get penalized for being an inconvenience. For nothing, you know.
So would we? So we would keep the drop in at something like $10, because I don't know about 40, because like I'm thinking like Dave Copeland, he came and just wanted to sell apples
Yeah, no,
at the end of the
and-
season.
And I think what Mariah went was not necessarily that date, you know, but it leaves it in their, in their ballpark. If I'm only dropping for, if I plan to drop in for 2 markets, and I know that I'm either gonna pay $10 on both of those days, or I'll just say, I'll just pay 40, and then if I go extra markets and covered, that's cool, you know. Just, there has to be something, so it's a disincentive for it to be an afterthought that I'm gonna jump in the middle of the party when it's already playing, and then make the manager have to deal with fitting me in and stuff.
I hear what you're saying, yeah.
would it make sense? So in the past, we've been doing $10 until you get to the $50 or the $40.
I like that personally.
I like that too.
Do you guys like this? It
that would
takes
work.
a lot more tracking on my end. That's the
Oh,
only reason.
right.
Like, if we
That's-
just say, hey,
Yeah.
That's the other thing, I would say, in the interest of an unpaid manager, having to manage it,
It's gotta be
you
simple.
buy a yearly fee, you get the yearly fee. If you pay the yearly fee ahead of time and you only make 8 markets and you only plan to, that's okay. She's collecting your money the treasurer gets your money one time and you're done. If you're gonna be hopping and skipping and jumping, then you either buy the 1-year pass to get the bulk of the deal, or you're gonna pay $10 anytime you decide to show up. That's what I would say anyway.
I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
like be incentivized to like,
To incentivize
it-
not
yeah.
being a nuisance.
really, no, I hear what you mean, yeah.
And
in
make
my
it
mind
easy
is
for
like
the
if
market
you're
manager.
just if you're a vendor, it was me being a vendor, I knew approximately how many times I was going to show up.
Right.
And if I know that I'm going to be there like for the season 4 times,
Right.
it's $40. It's still cheaper than
Yeah.
the majority of markets around.
Yeah,
Like, you can't
$50
even get
for
a
a
drop
month of
in
prime
at
time?
Marquette for $40.
Kelly,
for
mine
one
went up to
weekend.
$200.
So it's officially 200.
It's officially 200.
175 and 150.
How much is the drop?
175 and 150 for the other 2, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So 150 for Hancock.
150
Yes.
for Hancock, 175.
So if we charge
for-
50 for Hancock on a Saturday, that's it. Stick a fork in her, she's done.
Yeah.
So it sounds like 50 is fair, and then I like your idea. Like if it ends up we run a surplus, instead of being like, well, we're going to keep it the same or up it, then we go, no, next year it's 40, and if it ends up we're doing even better, we just keep
Well, then,
it
and then
going.
the way we did it with Chassel was it was $40 for returning vendors,
Yeah, that was-
and
right, I
then
like that,
$50
yeah.
for a new vendor.
For a
you
new
know,
vendor,
yeah.
yeah.
So you're rolling for $50
Yeah, you
this
say
year.
$10
Hancock.
by being
Yep. And then
a
you,
repeat, yeah.
you know, next year, we're starting with all new vendors in the Hancock, so to speak. Next year, there will be, in the second summit, returning vendors that'll say, you'll say, okay, for returning vendors, it's 40 and 50 or whatever.
Should we roll out a discount if you sign up for both?
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
Like,
Oh, I
That's
because
actually really- that's a good
other
idea.
Vendors, like, because vendors have to pay the cost for everything, and that's
Mhm.
was a concern at the last meeting, was how much are these vendors having to fork out all the time.
Yeah.
Like, essentially, all this money like is being used to better both markets at this point, and then possibly like Linden Market as
Yeah.
well. Like, if
Yeah.
we can
It makes
get that,
perfect sense.
like then we can say, hey, like we
Definitely
propose
think
as
that's a goal. I think
KMA
it
that
would
you
be
offer a
interesting.
$10 discount if the vendor signs up for an additional market.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, that's nice. The thing that I wonder though is how do you keep,
Check on all that.
no, yeah, track of it, but also how, I'd be going to both markets, so I'll pay the 40, 50, or I'll pay the 70 or whatever it is. But how do you keep it where a vendor who only does Hancock or only does Holton, you know, how do you keep it from from Hancock subsidizing Houghton or vice versa, you know.
Well, again, we were gonna have separate
Separate
accounts.
Yep.
accounts,
Yes.
separate committees, separate budgets.
We make sure the
That's
bulk
how you-
fee splits in two, basically.
Right.
Yes.
No odd numbers on that one. And then, right, would that answer your question, I guess, if we just split it in two? The
Yeah,
vendor
as
fees
long as
coming
we
in?
have those two
So if it
budget-
was
two
$70
budgets
for
going.
both,
Yeah.
then each would get 35.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Like,
then if
that's
a
a-
person only does one market, they're still paying 40 directly to that market.
To their
Yes.
market,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
that
Yep.
makes sense, that's good.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
versus them splitting and money
Right.
going to a market they don't go to, or
Right.
something. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
so for Chassel, 50,
Yep.
40 if returning, Hancock, 50,
And then next
40
year-
if you also do Chassel, and then would it be then 30 if I do both and I'm a returning to Chassel? Does that mean it's just 30 for me, or does that discount cap off at 40?
Ooh.
Because like you said, it could be 70 for you theoretically, but 70, like at that point, that's a really good deal.
That's still cheaper than any other market in the area, cause it's what, 200 for Calumet this year?
Yes.
So if we do
So,
80
like-
for
Well,
both
that's
markets,
Yeah.
as a
That's
discount.
what it must
And
be.
Well,
then-
and then.
Or if you're
70
returning, we have to draw a little table to make this.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure it out in my head.
Or do we get rid of the returning discount and we just say
Well,
$40?
I think
so
encourages
I
everything.
thought we started Chassel, it was 40, and then the next year,
The
We-
first year it was 20,
oh, that's right.
and then we bumped it to
bumped it to
40
40.
for returning and 50 for,
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
and it really helped because it was like, okay, well, if we had a new
Well,
vendor,
incentivize
then
me,
there's more
definitely.
setups, because I have the posts that go out with individual posts that go out for each vendor, and then the marketing, adding like my time trying to figure out all their information
Right.
and all that.
it is
The way
easier
to
with returning ones.
Yes,
It's a lot
yes,
easier.
Yeah. Copy
With
paste.
tracking this, I think there should be one form for the markets.
Right,
so that we can-
one master list,
Yeah, and then we
basically.
can formulate,
And then they just check the box, which markets would you like to do? And then
Yeah.
it just says like, if you checked both, you're paying this. If you checked one, you're paying this. Something like that.
well, and, well,
That's
I was,
easy over
Well,
Google
we
form.
have
Right.
to, in this form or whatever, be able to determine if they're a returning vendor or not, right?
yeah, and I can put a formula in and it'll highlight which
Okay.
ones of how many and all
Okay.
that.
And then do we
As
verify that or is it honor system?
I go
On-
vendor system, we're talking $10 a vendor.
So, yeah,
It's-
just honor
It's not
system.
gonna be
Yeah.
worth the
Chasing them
Wow.
the
down.
hassle and.
I guess the only, with the fee amounts, the only thing that I would be questioning was if Lake Linden bought in, they had been charging 50, I don't know.
50, it's still 50
It's
for the
still 50.
season.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, if they're gonna be charging 50 and me, see if they would agree with it.
And Sarah does the
$10.
thing that you do. You can pay 10, 10, 10,
Yeah,
and go out.
Right,
Yeah, you don't have to pay her in full right out.
right.
Well, do we want to do that if it creates a burden for, because that's part of the secret sauce for KMA is cutting corners on the market manager.
Right.
And
I don't think-
keeping track of that is, I know it was
I feel like
hard for
everyone
both
should
of us
do a lot of
because I would
collaborative
forget,
like that.
and then also, you know, the back of my
I
brain,
feel like most people
oh, I
don't
forgot to
do
pay my rent this
I
month,
think
my
so,
landlord
yeah.
didn't say
I
anything.
don't think
like-
it's
Even the ones that dropped
Yeah.
off later in the season,
Yeah,
they just
I don't
paid
think
the
a lot
full.
of people break up their payments. Is
yeah, I noticed at
It's not
Chassel, there were
overly common maybe.
certain ones.
Yeah, usually it's a new thing, like I did that for our winter market or whatever, because
Yeah.
Some people want to test it and they want to have
Yeah,
a
the
low risk.
returner is usually, we
Well,
know, we pay, we know what we're getting for it, yeah.
You know it's worth paying
Yeah.
upfront.
So-
This is incentivized for the newbies.
I guess for this year, to make it really simple, because Lake Linden has already opened up their registration.
They have.
They did.
And it's on their own form.
Yep.
I think for ours, if we wanted to do, if we get the approval for Saturday market, we could do a joint form to make it easy for my tracking, not only as the Chassel market, but also as treasurer to keep
Right.
everything in line, because I like to count every penny. I'm just one of those people.
That's why
Oh,
you're the
sure.
treasurer.
That's why you're
That's why I no, thank
And
you.
we love you for it.
Thank you for your attention to detail.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, so like I think this year let's focus on, let's try to develop a form. I know people didn't like the Google form for when I did the Chassel Christmas thing because it was duplicated and people were having problems. So Sarah's alternative to that was just a link. She said send her a thing and then she sent out the form link or something like that?
Yeah, so what she did is, it's the same Google form, but when you went to sign up, you would have to request to be let onto the form.
Okay.
Oh.
So then you can't just click and fill in the
People
form.
hate that.
So, but it was a quick button, it took her like 2 seconds to email back, it's just so you don't get scam, whatever, people that can.
I was having so many scams for the
Oh,
campus.
really?
I had to refund 2 people
There,
money.
what was happening is they were duplicating the Facebook pages, like the event pages, or they were putting themselves as vendors are still open, blah, 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 click this link, and they were able to
I've seen them on the
duplicate
Hancock
that form link, and it looks
Yeah,
exactly
but
like the
really?
form, they
Four
fill
scammers
everything out,
before
they
I
take
talked to you
Venmo and
directly, I'm like,
everything.
oh, you're the person
It
I'm
looks
talking
legit.
to.
I had no idea that they were targeting Facebook Google Forms for farmers markets.
Well,
Oh,
and they're also
absolutely.
doing it for events. So if
Events
you post
too.
an event,
Because you can tell.
they're like, oh, we have spots. Email me, and it's like,
Yeah,
well,
and
like
and you can tell
the
too,
copper,
yeah.
The copper
Jeez.
guy.
I tried to
got,
pinch a few
you
that
know,
I saw pop up on chats. I'm like, these frickers, and I'm trying to erase their comments, and sometimes they go so fast.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're still taking vendors. Who are you? Where are you from?
Yeah.
Okay, you're from California. Oh, yeah, no, I don't think you're
I
Yeah.
wonder.
Nothing against everybody from California, but they're probably not taking.
Bit of a long drive, you guys.
Bit of a long drive.
I wonder if there's a way to verify our accounts. our
There's
social
got to
media.
be.
So that we
I
can,
mean,
like,
you
even if we're
can-
paying a fee every
You
year,
can
say like
through Meta and be Meta verified, which is
Oh, for
paid.
the check mark.
how much is that?
It's a little blue check mark, and they have varying tiers.
Okay.
So
maybe
it's-
let's.
I
I'm
haven't gone in
willing
and
to
actually
check
looked
a
how
little
much it
into that.
costs, but they do have different verification tiers, but you absolutely can get the little blue check on the Instagram, Meta, all the Facebooks. So that helps that you got that little blue tick. Everyone knows that that's verified.
Yeah, but I'm tired.
Yeah, that you're.
I'm still
yeah.
fighting them on the off season right now. I'm deleting them on Chassel every day. I'm not even using this account.
Yeah, yeah. I notice it when
Yeah.
events get posted for anything. There's always.
And then nowadays, it's like, so much is outsourced. Portage-L, their billing goes through something Missouri. It's all like, okay, well, maybe
Right.
eventually, maybe, but right now, I don't think we're outsourcing, applications to people in California or New York.
Yeah, and getting reached out, like, we have this in this country or this state, like, we would like to help you, or will you sell our products for us?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't
I'm
want
in
to.
Utah. I look.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had one on our farm page where somebody made a comment, blah, 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 I'm like, it must have been AI generated, It's like,
Okay.
they're taking what I had posted, kind of refiguring it into a comment, like, check the profile out. Yeah, no, block, bye,
Yeah.
Because you can tell it's a candidate,
Yeah.
I'm glad my business is so small that that's not an issue yet.
Oh, it happens really quickly. I get orders for
I
things.
made a mistake.
I need 10 dozen cupcakes in
Yeah.
48 hours, and you're like, that's odd.
Right.
And they're like, but I'm from California. You're like, what? But then their page shows they're from Michigan, so then you're like, obviously scammy. So,
I made a
I'm glad the
mistake
other
once
person
I
that's
put
asked I'm friends
something
with on
about,
Facebook with the college
mushroom.
Yep.
Put the word mushroom on there. Oh my! I had so
oh,
many-
yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah, the mushroom thing. Yeah,
You
you're
gotta
like, oh,
show
shoot.
it,
Yeah.
Oh,
You gotta be
it is
careful
so
with that
much.
SEO all of a sudden. Those search words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Microdosers and everybody calling me all over. What in the world's going on?
Yeah.
Okay, now I get it. I said
Yeah.
the wrong word.
Yeah. Yep.
So just so that I know, because I want to wrap my head around this, how are we gonna set up
Green
KMA?
barley soda.
That's really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna be having some interesting imports coming in here.
Okay.
Sorry, she was curious about it.
Neat.
Yeah.
How do we want to set up accounts and that? Because right now, like, I think Chassel is really interested. I'm saying this. I'm saying that you're interested. I'm speaking for all of us. That having an account under KMA because they hold the nonprofit to have all of the funds go into that.
Right.
So,
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
who do
what-
we have set that up? How do we set it up? And then, how do we want to accept the payments for the booth fees? Like, so we're all in agreement on this process. I was getting ready to post it today, and I thought about these, and I'm like, let's not post any links yet.
Well, it would be one central bank account, and then
Yes.
it would be our bookkeeping to basically distinguish the internal accounts in them. And then I guess what we would do is we would have the president, secretary, or at least the president and the treasurer be names on the
Signatories,
account,
right.
signatories, yeah.
Mhm.
And then I guess whatever money we collect would either be deposited via cash into that bank, or we would just have whatever digital stuff.
I would set up a Venmo and a Square account using that bank account.
Yep.
Because that way
Right.
we can take donations and
Take donations.
pay digital.
The
A lot of people like to
vendor-
pay digitally
vendor
now.
fees,
Vendor
whatnot.
fees, yeah. If they
Um,
can. A lot of times they
And then if we end up doing tokens where it comes through us, because that's how it works with From the Ground, is they basically
Right,
take the reimbursement from the state and then they disperse that to the vendors. So
Yep.
eventually
Right.
we may want to do that.
But, well, if we do set up our own Square account, which I assume we're gonna do that this season, do we want to offer that service to vendors, that if they don't have their own Square, they can get tokens or whatever from,
I was
or is that too much too soon?
I was thinking we wouldn't, because one, it adds extra work for the market manager, and
Right.
two, it seems like most people already take care of that themselves. And I'm thinking maybe similar to this SNAP thing, where since it's going to take us so long as an organization to do that, we just give people the instructions and we
Mhm.
basically create an educational thing
Okay.
that
Maybe that's
basically
something we
shows them.
can come
and then-
back to in the future too, if we're getting
Yeah.
a lot of interest or a lot of
And then
questions
this is
or.
something like that, oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you're good, no.
Because we can 3D, I can use my 3D printer and we can make our own special in-house tokens.
Right.
It'd be a penny for each token that we generate. Part of the reason why I'm iffy on that is, so when people take money and exchange it for tokens from the ground, if they don't turn in those tokens, From the Ground gets to keep that money.
Yeah,
Right,
I've
right.
dropped some, like in the concrete in that Calumet building.
So yeah, they
That just got lost.
They did. They
Yeah.
get to keep
Yeah.
their money now,
Right.
and I don't know if I want to put us in a position, because when I was reading the snap was literally like, "Hey, yeah, if you screw up and people don't get their tokens back, that's your problem to figure out and coordinate with the people." And basically said, "Yeah, you get to keep the money." And so
Yeah.
I
Okay.
wish From the Ground posted. If From the Ground would perhaps post yearly how many money they make from unredeemed tokens, that would be fantastic.
Well,
I'm
and
not
that's
actually gonna
not
watch
only-
this, but
I would be curious, yeah.
Well,
I'd be
that's
very
not only
curious.
from the market standpoint, but
Do you
for
get
the,
some
the
sales
customers
numbers
that
from
like,
that?
leave it in
But-
their pocket.
Yeah, like they
Yeah.
paid for it and then the season ended and they weren't able to make it for whatever family emergency scheduling
yeah.
problems.
Yeah, that's why I want to lead into that. To me, it's not a paramount. And it
Yes.
seems like when I talk to people,
It's something
their big
you,
thing
like,
is the
double back
SNAP
to.
tokens.
Yeah.
It's the double up food bucks. That's what people want because that's what incentivizes them. Like I sold way more mushrooms when I started accepting those $5 senior discount things,
Okay.
whereas no one almost barely ever gave me debit
I,
tokens.
I saw a lot in Snap
See,
once I was
all
able
mine
to
was
do that
debit
Snap
card
program.
tokens.
Yours was all debit
I got
tokens.
tons of debit card tokens too as well. Like some days, I think one market I had $150 worth of tokens. I had to swap tokens with them because we were running out of coins.
So it really just comes down to what you sell. Because I
Yeah.
probably averaged $5 to $20 in tokens.
Yeah.
I'd sell $500 in a market, and only $20 of that would be
Right.
deposit tokens.
Right.
But
Weird.
both of you have Square, so why would you
Right.
be having?
It saves me the fee
Right.
on Square. Because I do have Square. I can use it. I put it out. I use it a lot. There are some people who just buy the tokens in general because different vendors don't have Square, so they'll just say,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna get 40
Right.
bucks in tokens when I walk in to the booth, and this is what I'm gonna spend at the market today. So I started getting tokens because people started using them that way. Versus
Okay.
going to you or saying, okay, do you take card, whatever, I'll go get tokens. They just say, I know there's a handful of vendors here that don't, so I'm just
Right.
gonna grab these tokens.
Okay.
Make it, and then I don't have to swipe my card at every vendor. I noticed that picked up a little bit, but it was the second year. It had to take time to like get its footing. Your vendors used to what tokens we can take or how we take them and count and things. It did get a little
And kids really like
kerfuffled in
tokens
there.
too, because parents give them a little
yeah,
allowance.
that's yeah.
Well,
Oh,
maybe
you're gonna need
something-
5 of those, Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is
So
budgetary.
we can work
too.
towards
Yeah.
that, but I'm skeptical we could have
Starting it out
a
the
system
gate.
for that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe something that we
It's
can
worth
think about
considering.
doing is that before, I know it's kind of pushing the time limit, but before the market starts, like I tried one year to do like the social media, how to teach people how to use some social media marketing stuff.
Me and
Oh,
Heather
yeah.
showed up.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like maybe we do hey, we're gonna have a work time and we have these people that have signed up to help people with how to set up their Square account or how to do this or how to get these coupons and sign up for these. Like we all just kind of take a station and sit there. We
Right.
Yeah, the
could
same
do it like
can
right here, like we could
record,
sit
like-
down and be like, okay, we're with our computers, like we're here to help you. And then we just have signs on each table, like want to learn how to make a Facebook account or how to sign
We
up
can
for
always
Snap.
do this digital too.
Yeah, we could,
Make-
like, yeah.
We could, but I like the,
Yeah,
the
DIY videos
face-to-face
for-
It could be
thing.
both.
Yeah,
Ideally.
record, yeah.
Like if you missed it, you can catch it online
Catch it
on our
online or
website.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
and too, if we're
that's
sitting there
a
with
good
a computer, we could say, hey, like, sign up for your
Kind
time
of
on
like they do
Zoom.
with the law things where you come in for the free legal days and they
Yeah.
have different, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I
Ideally,
guess-
that would make it easier for us so we don't have to schedule a bunch of times and all this other stuff. Because
Right.
I feel like having it be like a half-hour segment before our regular meeting, for instance.
And I would gander some of our maybe less technological savvy customers would appreciate the hands-on. Here's how you do it physically versus trying to watch a video.
Did you look into WIC? Because I think individual web vendors need to do WIC.
I did not look into WIC. I just
Okay.
looked into SNAP and
WIC
then
is
authorization for
individual
SNAP
now.
then led into the double up food bucks.
Is women and children?
WIC has to be done in
Individual.
The market
Right.
managers are not allowed to
Right, that's why I'm bringing it
set
up.
that up yet now.
For
It's that
another
one and
program.
There's
for-
one other
That
program.
meats and eggs ones, hey, that,
The
The coupons.
the meat and egg, not the food as medicine, but
no,
like,
I don't think so.
meat and eggs ones. There's
Yeah,
one that's a meat
maybe.
and eggs.
Yeah, those
I'd
two
have
you
to-
have to do.
Well, I'll look up and I'll
Yeah.
figure
They won't let
out.
the market ma-
It's
The upcap.
food and eggs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
those two are the only two that market managers cannot, or market organizations can't, the vendors have to go direct.
Okay.
They have to do it themselves.
So then what I'm
But
gonna
the other
do.
ones, we could be intermediaries, pretty
I'll
much.
make
for
a list
anything.
of stuff then.
Yeah.
Stuff that, yes, we can offer, stuff that individual vendors do, but we'll offer Torlon, stuff we'll do next year. And then that way for
Yeah.
the Hancock meeting,
Yeah.
it'll be efficient. And then when we advertise the markets, we can be like, hey, we're not gonna be offering these tokens, but we're gonna show you how to get
Which is-
3/4 of
Yeah,
them.
that works just as well, too, absolutely.
If some want them, great, sign up, if some don't want them, great.
I've crossed vendors that are
Yeah.
afraid to use Square because of scams and things, so we
Yeah.
can show them, it's, yeah, absolutely.
How to set up a square without worrying about
But,
scammers.
yeah, and like how it works and protections and like, yeah, there's like so much
We
stuff.
can put stuff like that on the Keweenaw report too.
Oh,
Maybe people
absolutely.
outside that
Oh, yeah.
are curious about that. I'd
Yeah.
be curious.
Yeah.
Houghton Portage Library, I think is also gonna be good. They've offered to basically host a lot of the stuff for free, and they're pretty central.
MIFMA has a good their webpage has a good thing for breaking down the food programs too, of like what vendors have, what are straight vendors and what
Can
we
you
can.
send me a link to
Yeah.
that? That would be very
Absolutely.
useful.
Have
Absolutely.
you talked with, I'm gonna slaughter her name,
You just sent it to
Asanico?
the chain.
Yeah.
At Portage Library?
Off and on, but mostly in the context of like the mushrooms and my workshops that I do there.
Okay, because she's the one who like organizes all those workshops and that for that space. She has been really helpful with the grad school and like setting stuff up and trying to get digital stuff. So if we need to reach out, like I can reach out to her because I've talked to her at least 15 times already this year.
Yeah, so once we get all the flyer stuff
Just
ready to
another
go,
new
we
best
talk to
friend on
her.
the list.
Yeah,
That's
and
what
then
I'm
say,
trying to
hey,
figure out
let's
now
do
is what we need before we start pushing the
Half
next
my
step
brain isn't
of
there
the
right
process.
now.
And it sounds like,
We need a bank. So you and I need to get together and get an account set
so,
up.
preferences on bank, do we just do Superior National because it's fairly central? I like Mitre State Bank, but sometimes they're too niche for people. I don't know if we want something that's broad.
I don't have a preference. Do you guys like people that
I
have
would
their-
want one with multiple branches,
Not Flag Star.
like either
I'm okay with
Superior
that.
National or Range.
Yeah, it's great.
Superior.
It sounds like
I'd
Superior
say
National
Superior.
then.
I like
Right.
Superior National.
It's got the
I
most.
prefer them because Range, I had some issues with them when I was with the Calumet Theater, but anyway.
Well, Superior National also has multiple branches, and they have
Right.
one in Econo, so if like I have to do a drop off,
And it's
Right.
right next to the Quincy Green, so.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
and they might they might be one of the sponsors too, because they like to sponsor stuff.
They
That's
do. Right.
true. We said
Yeah.
we'd like to open a bank account. And by the way,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
So let's try to get.
So bank account, flyer, are we official on the price? Part of me wants to do a vote on the price just for like, because that's a big deal, I
Like
feel
the-
like. Everything else I feel
$10.
like we can kind of gloss over.
So saying
It's
that.
like, I'd propose 40 for current, 50 for returning for Chassel, 50 for this year, because they're all
New.
new. Yep, so 40 for returning, 50 for new in Chassel. Hancock are all new, so 50 next year. We could pop back to 40, 50, like Chassel is if we want for uniformity. $10 drop in, and
Discount for doing both?
Right,
Just
either way,
$10
So-
off?
So like
If it's.
you're returning to Chassel and then everyone's gonna be new at the Hancock, it would be $80 to do both markets? Just
Yeah.
make sure I
Yeah.
So you
understand
get basically, you
everything.
get $10 off the Hancock market, so
Yep,
it's the
and then
same
we would
price as
get-
Chassel.
Yeah, we would split the
Yeah, that sounds good.
90
That
and it'd be
sounds good.
45
What-
for,
well, you're
or
right,
80
yeah.
and it'd be 40 for each.
Right,
of the
so someone who is new to,
Someone new to
But so like you,
Chassel.
you're gonna be $90 and it's gonna 40 of it's gonna go to Hancock and 40 of it's gonna go to Chassel.
Get 10
Wait.
gets taken off because you're.
wait,
deciding-
wait. I
That's
would,
that's why
I would be
that's
$80,
why-
right?
that's why
Because
I
it
think
would be,
multiple
no,
discount is
yeah,
Everybody at Hancock is new,
easy.
cause this is the
right,
first year.
but, so it would be 50 for, the Tory,
Yeah,
Yes.
40 for Chassel, then do,
A
I
$10
get the
discount,
$10, so it would be $80
you're right, yeah.
for both.
Yep,
Yes.
So
If
a
you're-
brand new to both would be $100.
yeah.
Whoa, would it be
Well,
90?
90
Or 90,
because
it would be 90.
Yeah. Then that way it splits 45-45, or it splits 40-40, or it splits 50, well, no, because if you get both, then you're gonna get some sort of discount. So yeah, that
And then-
maths out.
And then the next year, when if you're returning to Chassel, returning to Hancock, it's 40. You do both of them, you
It would
get,
be 70.
you get, yeah, $10 off,
And
$7.
theoretically, if we have more money in the account, we can reassess then,
Yeah.
if we
Right.
need to change.
As long as we're maintaining separate budgets, so Hancock vendors who only do Hancock are not subsidizing Chassel's pavilion that the Chassel people.
Right.
Yeah.
benefit from. You
Yeah.
gotta have a
Right,
separate budget.
that
Yeah.
is my big thing, because
Yeah.
everyone, all the, from the ground is subsidizing
You know,
Calumet.
Because we have the $500 pavilion,
That-
Hancock doesn't have the $500 pavilion,
Right.
hopefully it won't be $500.
Right,
And
but.
then, so
it- right.
Hancock people, if there's a washing of the money in one big pot, Hancock people are paying for something in Chassel that they don't benefit from.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
And so the idea is to basically collect an excess in both markets, and then once we figure out how deep we dig into both of them after subtracting equal for advertising and then their respective unique costs, then we assess for next year. Okay, so,
And then each market will maintain like their own budget, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I
but
think we
getting
got it.
back to one of the first questions Mariah asked at the beginning of this, are we going to have each market has to buy in to the KMA for the administrative costs?
Which is like a basic marketing package.
Right,
In
right.
that.
yeah, I
Big-
guess we would call it just a marketing package. Now, the question is,
Right.
do we just take the cost for marketing and split it in half, or do we add a $20? Is kind of like what you're asking? Are we asking
No,
for?
I'm just saying,
Like,
Flat
say
rate.
if
So-
we
Just
were
flat
to,
rate.
so,
like if we
Let-
were to
let's
pitch
just-
to somebody.
let's just say that both markets have 10 vendors each. We're keeping the numbers easy.
Yeah.
And let's go with a $40 per, so they each have $400, right? So, yeah, that would be in their individual buckets,
Mhm.
right? Now, does the KMA, because KMA is providing the banking stuff and education and whatnot, so of that $400, KMA takes $100 or $200 for administrative costs for the collective, and then whatever they wanna do with the, again, whatever dollar amount let's say $100 or $200, or let's say they have $200 to $300 each, they get to decide what they're spending it on.
And so if they're-
And again, we're assuming that we could get the grant for the pavilion, we could get, and that's a wash, right?
Okay, and then the marketing package would be like, let's say it costs the KMA $500 for the advertising for everyone.
Right.
And then we would split that in half, 250, and then we split in
No.
half.
So they've already paid into it. They've paid let's say it's $200, right? So KMA has a $400 budget, right? And it's up to KMA to get more funding resources to cover whatever expenses they have.
Okay. Okay, now I
And
get it.
and I think
I'm
that's
thinking at it from the other direction. That's where I'm corkscrewing myself.
No,
I get it
I
now.
think that's the cleanest for everyone, right? Because, again, each committee, each market has their own money that they could, and if, Chessel wanted to do their own, they wanted to pay
Do more
a
marketing
musician
stuff,
or
yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? They could take it out of their budget. They don't have to go through the whole board committee.
Right.
You have your money, and then same with the Tory. We want to do a special blast for Christmas in July.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because that's a unique advertisement, so we wouldn't want
Right.
it to come out of a general. Okay,
Right.
I'm with you now.
Does that make sense, and do we need to vote on it to adopt that model?
That we would need to vote on because that's a big deal.
Right.
Definitely.
And I think going with that, as a market manager and knowing what our accounts are seeing at for Chelsea right now, I would need to know when does that bill come due, because I don't have vendor money coming in, and I'm like trying to pay Paul.
Cart
like,
before the horse
because
or whatever.
I wrote the check for Chessel out of the account,
Right.
and it's left not a whole lot, so I'm like, okay, like how do I get everybody happy? So like, would it be like, hey, these bills would be due to KMA like the 1st of July, or like, or is it
Right,
Ideally,
I-
people sign up and pay digitally right then and there. And we
well,
just-
ideally,
Well,
like
right, but no, I see
Yeah.
what you're saying, so I would say 30 days after the first market for the season.
just so that I have time to get vendor fees in,
Right.
to be able to
Right.
pay everybody and all the things that are going out. Like
That's fair.
Because essentially what I would really hope as a market is that any vendor fees that come in, like at the end of the year, we kind of wash clean and we spend everything so that it's good to go. And then the next year, like we're doing again, we're getting the vendor fees in and we're able to pay. And then like, that's the way that I see it, is try to keep the costs as low as possible. And as low as possible means I'm using
breaking
everything.
even at the end of each year,
Right.
yeah.
right.
Which is a little, yeah, and that's kind of the benefit of KMA, because ideally, you don't have to be sweating going in the red, because like if something did happen, the parent organization's there, and then the board is like, hey, emergency $100 to the Chassel committee because of X, Y,
Right,
Z.
right,
Yeah.
the KMA would subsidize the markets, right, if special,
Well, yeah, like a short term kind of like, hey, I'm waiting on these vendors to pay, like I'm trying to do this, but this bill came due. That's what I was trying to say, like if we're gonna do this, like,
Right.
hey, we're gonna charge the markets $200 for the initial buy-in. If we wanna do additional marketing, like it would have to be voted on by KMA just to make sure. But the initial buy-in is $200 per market to subsidize the
That covers the
costs
everything.
and
Right,
initial, initial marketing.
but,
Maybe that's saying that.
but like,
And then how is that explained to a vendor in Chassel or Hancock who says, where is the money that's going to KMA, what is it used for? You know,
it will
it's
be
separate-
the swag bags, it
Well,
will,
it's-
right.
But it's separate from, if it's just a buy-in to the organization, how is it?
The buy-in would also have to have receipts to go with it, basically, is what you're saying, and that's
Well,
what we
no,
would
But it also would
provide.
have to be, if we say, here's advertising we split, here's this we split, here's this we split, you have a pot of money that you use for things specific to your market, you have a pot of money that you use for things specific to Hancock market, but yet you gotta pay in to buy into our club. I don't care. But the question is going to be raised, because it has been raised multiple times with other organizations. What are they using the money on? What are we paying for? They get $5,000 from each of them. You know, it's almost like we got to be careful that we're not rebuilding something that
Right.
that there's been some discontent with, just under a different name and organization.
The same thing with the extra
And we're
steps.
trying to. It's almost like we have to, in my view, we almost have to look at it as the markets created KMA, and the markets are the management and the organizers and the parents of KMA, and KMA it exists because of the markets, you know, rather than a model where here's this and we're gonna, if you're underneath, we'll subsidize you, and if you're, you know, it gets messy when it gets that way. A market should be able to stand on its own two legs. If it can't, it shouldn't exist. That's kind of what I'm thinking, you know.
Well, yeah, like, my thought is if it can't exist, if you go through a season and you have a down season, like that's a rough season. What can we do to fix it? If you have 2 seasons in a row that you're in the red,
Right.
then I say, like,
Right,
sorry.
right.
Like,
You know, because we're trying to model off another, or kind of take ideas off another organization. We're not doing the same thing. With us, Chassel pays. We have to pay Chassel $500. Hancock Oakley will get it free.
well, I'm hoping
Each
that,
of the cities that are involved in From the Ground pay them $5,000, so it's equal there.
That
As
was
far
the
as I
reason
know-
Lake Linden turned away
Right.
from the ground, because they didn't need some of the stuff, and they felt the package
Yeah.
was expensive.
And then
Outside of them being a vendor.
right.
Hey, for a marketing package, they were like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
as
they
far
couldn't
as I know-
justify
Right.
why. Yeah.
So we're trying to get two markets, totally different situations.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Shoved under one roof,
Yeah.
managed by this organization.
Right.
It gets kind of convoluted.
I have a couple ideas. So I think one, going to address the people's concerns of not knowing where things are at. I think we need to have a monthly posting, budget versus actual, itemized data reported out, like this is where we spent the money on, this is the results that we're seeing.
That's in that transparency thing
Yep.
that we put in our
I mean, the other option is, okay,
Newsletter
Chesley, you
or-
wanna be independent, you find the $500 to pay for your
And
pavilion.
we have it for vendor fees, that we
Right,
charge last
right,
year,
right.
which is why we need to charge vendor fees for all markets. They have to have money coming in.
Right,
You know,
so,
It's
but,
It's $700 split in advertising. It's $700 for Chassel, $700 for Hancock. If we do the same advertising, we got to get $700 coming from Hancock. We want to hire the city to set up our tents. We need money for that on top of it. I mean,
Right.
it's not going to be $20. If it's $500, then Hancock needs to have $1,200. We're gonna have to charge vendor fees. Might have to charge hefty vendor fees if we want to do all that we want to do. You know.
Well, the idea is that by pooling our efforts on advertising, we bring the costs down a lot. And that's, in that point, it's kind of there's no clean fix, because as soon as we
No.
pool our money for advertising, like, it's kind of into semantics now. It's like, how do you want to represent that in the spreadsheet? And, you know, I don't think I've ever heard anyone complain about Chassel's bookkeeping. So to me, as long as we keep the same approach to Chassel's bookkeeping, and we actually say like, hey, half of your dues went into the advertising, and then we have the physical receipt with it, people will just have to.
If there's any reason people can complain, they will find, and they will complain. It's just the way it is.
And
So then at a
they-
certain
and they
point, you just
do.
say, here's what it is. If you don't like it,
Right.
I don't care. You know.
Yeah.
Pretty
And
much.
it's
Yeah.
kind of how I had to handle the lady who was mad because somebody got her spot. You weren't here, and she doesn't come here anymore. It's unfortunate, but when you make
It is
choices,
what
you
it
gotta
is.
live with them. This is what it is. The way it is, you know.
Yeah, I don't think the whole advertising thing, I think all we can do is be hyper transparent. Other than that, like, some stuff's just gonna have to get pulled together. It's the same with the totes, like, I don't wanna have to create 2 separate totes for 2 separate markets.
Right,
It's
right.
just, it makes no sense.
And if it was, you know, we took and we said we're spending $600 in advertising, 300 each market, well, $300 in the vendor fees in Hancock and 300 from Chassel are joined together by $600 worth of advertising. We're advertising equally. That's easy for them to understand.
Yeah.
But if it's to join the club, you gotta pay a membership fee to get in here, and then on top of that, we're gonna do equal advertising, equal this, equal that, except we really won't be equal, because one has a million fee, the other doesn't. You guys, it just gets convoluted, people are gonna, the same thing that's happened with the other one is gonna happen with,
Yeah.
as it gets complicated.
And that could come down to communications, like, yes, we pool for advertising, but we keep it separate for the individual costs. If you'd like to know more, visit our website, we have a full
Yeah.
breakdown
Yeah,
there.
and I'm addressing the buy-in to the organizations that,
Right.
you know, people are gonna say, what am I buying into, what am I paying for, what do they do with the money that is being taken from my vendor fee to get into it?
Even have a cheap little flyer that we just give to people, as soon as they ask that, be like, well, I'm glad you asked, here you go.
Yeah.
And like you said, like, there's always gonna be those one or two people, but it's about keeping them in as an extreme minority as possible. And where if 99% of everyone's happy, great, that's better than the current status quo where 30% of everyone's mad. That works for me.
Right.
And paying a $40 or $50 per season vendor fee is much easier to swallow than
Yeah.
$150 to $200.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why people ask about where that money, it's like, okay, you just asked her for $50 a season, I'm getting the same thing, tell me why, whereas.
Trust
Right,
me, there's
right.
gonna be questions raised where my $200 is going.
Yeah.
And that's why I think we need to have a vendor fee. I mean, it's nice to say, just make it, have no fees or anything, it's nice to do that, but I don't know, you almost have to have a fee, it has to be a pay to play. And if you
Right,
don't
and
wanna pay to play,
and
then
we're
you can't.
agreed on that we are gonna charge, I think
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I make a motion that we do Chassel 40 for returning, 50 for new, Hancock 50, they're all new this year, next year it'll bump up the same thing. If you do both markets, you get $10 off your total fee for the season, and drop-in fee is $10 a market through the whole season. If you wanna get a discount, you gotta buy the whole, pay the $50 or $40, whatever it may be. And then, that's my motion.
I second.
I third.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we're good.
Okay.
So I guess, quick contingency, what if someone does come up and be like, hey, so last year you guys let me do $10 at a time until I paid off my whole thing, is that still cool?
No, we don't have.
We tell them no?
I would say we don't,
okay.
I would say it's changed, it's.
Yep.
It's like, no, it's just too much for us to keep track of.
We have an unpaid manager, she can't be keeping track of it. Would you like to volunteer to be on the board and take, you know?
And if it's a poor widow, husband just died and hands are shaking, I just want to sell some of my apples to be still like, I'm just covering every hypothetical
I know what
here.
you mean.
I don't know if I have the will to be like, sorry man, but that's gonna be $50.
You can always send them to me, I
At
tend
that
to
point-
be,
at that point,
the rules are the
personally, I would-
rules.
Just waive the
So-
fee?
I would waive the
We
fee.
would
and
waive the
say,
fee?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay,
Yeah,
just set
I-
your table, we didn't notice anything.
I just
We're
gotta
not
cover my
paying-
extremes.
Yeah, no.
All right.
It's common sense, but we gotta have some structure, you know?
But
Okay.
Ash just brought up, I make the motion that we waive the fees for anyone 18 and under
Oh,
and
I'm
all.
sorry.
Yeah, you
Oh,
brought that
yes.
up, but we never voted on it.
Oh, yeah.
And, and
Yeah,
all.
we voted on this motion, I meant to add that one, I in fact had it in my notes, but I didn't read it.
Free for youth. and
Well, I
then
wanted to get it official.
Switching art over to a commission-based, 5%, that's kind of what my mom did at the craft guild back in Poway. I'm just kind of cut and pasting it, I haven't exactly researched it, but it feels fair because I sell a $100 painting, I give $5.
Is
They-
that on an honor system so that we like? So
Yeah.
they
It
say-
is, because artists don't
Oh, I-
constitute
yeah.
a large enough,
So in addition to the fee, they have to pay a 5%?
no fee.
No fee.
Because
Their
artists-
fee is a commission.
Yeah, because it's too much risk
So-
for, and, well.
So we
I-
don't have a vendor fee then?
Vendor, it's.
We only
ven-
penalize the farmers and the bakers and the egg
So for
sellers
the-
and the bagel makers, we only penalize them, everybody else gets free. You know,
You want to look at it that way, it's a surcharge, anyone not selling art, there's a $50 surcharge to the vendor
Because
fee.
I would look at it and I would say if,
We have to put a minimum though, you
Yeah.
can't just be like, oh no, I'm an artist, see, I have a pretty picture here, and then 90% mushrooms.
like,
So we would have to put a
you
cap.
know, so
or a
I would
minimum.
say if,
Well,
if I go
well,
to.
can we just do for the kids and the nonprofits first?
Yeah.
Right
free.
now,
You wanna make the
for
motion?
free.
Yeah.
I will make the motion that
18 and under,
that 18 and under and
Registered
nonprofit
nonprofit.
nonprofits.
and
Yeah, because the prison sometimes comes and wants a spot. I know
Right.
they're not a
Humane
nonprofit,
Society.
but I don't mind Humane Society.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Got the disc golf organization that would be floating
Or
around this summer,
governmental
so-
organization, I mean,
Yeah.
it's the discretion
And
of whoever's,
Approved community organization.
yeah.
Okay. So I second the motion, but have it also include tribal, government, and nonprofit.
Sure.
Or approved community organizations. If the
Yeah.
health department wants to set up and give out free rubbers, no, you're not coming here, get out of here, that's not what you want.
I don't want that as a
Right,
function.
right, but that's the
I've been there
psychopaths that
before,
are in
this
the
is
world today,
awkward.
so,
Yeah.
that's the psychopaths that are in the world today. So, but if somebody says, I'm gonna promote plants in Hancock City, oh yeah, come on in, yeah, set up your table,
I-
whatever, it's a community, approved community organization.
What about political organizations?
I don't think they should have been petitioning.
I
to
don't
collect
think so.
Petitions at the market, I don't think it should be.
No.
I tried
It's
it, I tried
terrible,
it for Chancellor, I
Right.
have tried really hard to keep politics out of it because it makes the market so much more stressful because
Oh, I know.
everybody has that in the everyday world. Let's not have politics.
I had
in
that
our-
experience last summer, it was
Yeah,
awful.
I even had an issue with the community calendar promoting the People's March. I said, where does that come from? You know, that's a political thing. So now,
Right.
means they put the left-leaning psychopath
You gotta have to
People's
put-
March on there, they should have put the Trump rally or whatever came next, you know, I'd say keep it out of it.
Yeah.
You know, just
We'll have a
together.
literally above
know,
policy
I-
here.
I'd pull the community calendar right off Chancellor's, is what I would do if it was up to me, you know.
Okay, so, we have to vote on the first motion, which is 18 and under,
Yep, yep.
Approved
non-political,
Yep. Tribal.
tribal,
Yeah.
nonprofit, get their fees waived.
Nice.
That's my motion.
Nice, second.
Second.
Second, third. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Okay,
It passes.
so,
So now the art
So-
commission.
yeah, do we want to do with the arts or with the political? And what do we do about the political? We just say they
Political, we turn them
cannot.
away.
Okay,
We just turn them away. That's
We're a
makes things
non-affiliated
easier.
organization, we don't.
There's plenty of other public locations that they can
It's,
do
we're,
that with.
yep, we're a non-affiliated organization, we don't.
That's what the bridge is for.
Yep.
That, to me, is
And
what
it-
that
you know,
is.
And it's approved
It's for,
approved by the organization.
Yeah.
Sarah Green was passing out flyers at the cold season. I don't agree with her position on it.
right,
I accept her freedom to walk around and give flyers. I don't agree.
right, yeah.
But
But the
if
organization.
She were to ask for a booth, we would say no.
We don't,
Yeah.
we don't do it.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can't be like controlling people's private public interactions.
Right, right.
But yeah, to having a booth, it's a different matter.
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
about for artists, instead of having it commission-based, because that's an honor system and tracking, and then they're paying everything that time, like a delay on, they don't have to have it on the first market, but they get like up to 60 days or up to 30 days after their first market to pay their 40 or 50.
You want to
I
deal with
was-
the management to that?
I would say no because I've had problems with people saying, hey, I'll pay you next week, and then they end up being the whole season and they don't pay at all.
Yep.
Okay.
And then it's really hard to get them to pay when they aren't there.
Could we consider like an artist, like a artist, like we do with our musicians, right? You have featured artist of the day. It's almost that same umbrella that they're there under the premise that yeah, they're being a featured artist, whatever they pay on their commission, similar to maybe how some people do musicians, like sort of in that same.
I don't know.
I don't know how that works,
I'm
but
tempted
just
as
as
a-
throwing that out there.
I'm willing to
I
put in the
really-
extra work personally
Yeah.
to make that, but the problem is like that
I don't know how that
policy
works.
to do that, because I won't be able to physically make the Chassel Market. I'm gonna have most likely those two at the Chassel Market because of the restaurant hours.
Right.
And so I don't wanna make a policy that I can't back up.
Right.
And it has to work for people.
Yeah,
Commission,
absolutely.
that worked as well. My mom did that. She was part of the guild and she was more or less the market manager, so she had no issue. It's just with artists, I've never seen as much of an issue with people trying to like skirt the system, which is why I'm a little more open to risking that. It could even be a box that's there.
I know
Quantifying an artist is hard.
Yeah, well, we would
That's
say that over
Right.
90% of your table has to be actual art. You can't be 50% art, 50% baked goods.
Just to kind of jump on, I think the point James was trying to make, in a way, we would be penalizing the non-artists by demanding, by requiring them to pay a vendor fee. And a lot of the summer art fairs, they are pricey to get into. I mean, and it's only one weekend. So to charge them the same as we would charge a food vendor seems pretty fair.
Our fees aren't high, we're not asking a huge amount, like, I get what you're saying with the
Right,
5%.
right.
If we were charging $200 for the season, like, it's gonna be hard to make, like, you have a lot, as a market manager, you have a lot to work for, to get enough people through there to have the percentage to get you your $200 back. As someone that did crafts for 2 seasons, $40, it wasn't hard for me to get $40 back, but I had to put the work in and show up to every market.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, if we were charging more than $40, we were charging $100, I would say then we need to talk about that. But I think our prices are low enough, and two, we have the drop-in, hey, it's $10. If you come in and you've been to 2 markets, you've done the $10 thing, and you say, hey, like, I'm an artist, and I've actually seen that they've done art on their table, and you say, hey, you know, could I get the season pass for 40? I've already paid 20 in. I'm gonna be more likely, and leave that up to the manager as discretion for that market to say, I'm willing to work with you, than to just say, hey, like, we have a blanket 5%, because I honestly, I don't have the energy to go and say, did you sell anything today, and like, did you sell this, like, how much was that worth, and now I gotta calculate 5% in my head, and then I gotta mark down how much that 5% was, because I do wanna track every penny.
It takes some of the labor off of the market manager.
Yeah.
I would lean toward just let the flea market decide, here's our fee, you're welcome to come here, sell your stuff, if it's not worth your time and you don't make money out of it, then at this venue,
Just haven't been successful
your
at the markets, yeah.
products aren't in demand.
And they're not mad at losing
Just
$10.
like I would sell carrots at an art fair, you know, I just.
Right,
you know,
right.
And maybe that's where
overreacting.
leaving it for the manager, so like, if Quincy on the Green, or Tori on the Green on Saturdays wants to do the 5% thing, then you guys handle the money side of things, and then you report back to me, and then I can do
That's a
mine.
good,
I
that's a
keep
good,
forgetting, so
yeah.
the pan KMA policy versus committee-specific policy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that'll probably be the good solution. It also lets us kind of kick the can down the road if feel strongly. But no, I think you're right. If the price is low enough, even the artists won't really care about
Yep.
it.
I don't think
And I've talked to a couple artists and asked them about my rates at Chassel, and they've said honestly, like, I know that these are only the markets that are the weeks that I go to, because these are the weeks that, like the one before Strawberry Festival, they know that week is gonna be a good week for crafts. They come that week.
Yeah.
They know that the first week of August seems to be a really good week for crafts. They come that week. They don't come the other weeks. And they're like, hey, I wanna do this, or if they know, hey, I'm gonna come 4 times, I'm just gonna pay the season fee, because our crafters typically know that. And when a crafter does sign up, I reach out to them and say, hey, like, I know that the first week is gonna be big week, but I know that in September, it's gonna be hard to sell your crafts. It is, it's a lot of work to set them up, the weather's not that great. Like, that's typically why if we have a drop-in vendor in September, Chassel, we don't charge for September for drop-ins, because it's, one, is a headache, and 2, I can't guarantee that there's gonna be people there.
Yeah.
Like, I try really hard.
Do you want to clarify that
just-
one?
there's
Do you
also
want to
something
say
to do.
drop-in becomes free by September, or do we not even want to advertise that, because then people may try to game the system?
I think it's up to the market.
I would go with the market
Let the
committees.
committees
Yeah,
decide.
let
Yeah.
the committees
Okay.
decide. Yeah.
Like, anything
All
that
right.
becomes more detailed, other than the new, the monthly, or the current, and, the drop-in, I think let the market managers decide from there, just because there's a lot of nuances that come through, like, you
I
have
feel
right
like
now.
it's good to keep that on the down low, because I approached Chassel end of last summer thinking I would be paying a fee, and like, it was a really nice moment to find out, like, oh, okay, you just have to set up a table.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, and that kind of comes with,
That's right, by the time you came in, yeah, that's, yep.
That would have been.
it was
Right
right
on
around
that.
that time, and I'm like, I
Perfect.
can't guarantee anything. And but then, you know, Hancock Tory might be where they're like, hey, like, Saturdays are really hopping, and we're gonna take it out this year and say, hey, we're gonna try to maintain this. Let's see how it works. And if you get halfway through September and you're like, man, we are still so busy, this works really well, then you continue it. But I know for Chassel, like, I feel bad as a manager charging people when I can't guarantee people being there. And after doing this for going into our 4th season, like, I know what we can do and what we can't do. And even with the extra efforts, like, September's are hit and miss. Like, if we have great weather, I can put people there, but if weather is really crappy, but other times when weather's really crappy, sometimes we're really busy. Like, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah,
It's not a lie.
Okay,
So
well,
yeah, so I
Yeah.
motion that we let the market managers figure out the details for their markets. In, like, if they have anything that they want to negotiate with their vendors, let the market managers decide.
all right. No, that sounds
And
good.
again, that's going to go into their budget, right?
Yeah, and into their
Right,
own
right.
details of what they want to do.
So.
Yeah, because Hancock could have a bunch of money, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna let artists in for free because we don't need the money. And if the food
Right.
vendors are really mad about it, they can come complain, and we can change our policy or something like that.
Yep, it's all up to the own market committee, individual market
Okay.
committees.
I like this.
Point.
It lets it be complicated but simple at the same time.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I know, I like it. No, that works out.
So yes, I agree with that, and I motion we adopt that.
And then there was a second. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Alrighty. I'm not even gonna ask for opposes now.
I think we covered the majority. You and I will get together and get an account set up. We'll get things rolling. My goal for Chassel, just so that the market or the KMA knows, is my goal is to have something out to our vendors come this next weekend. Give me
Yeah.
a week to like figure out the details of our new plan and trying to put it into words to my vendors, and then at that point I'll have a budget. And is that something that we should make too? Is that each market that is underneath proposes their budget to the KMA so that they kind of know so they can post it and say, hey, this is the budget for each one for the transparency
Yeah.
side.
I think for
Yeah,
transparency, yeah.
Good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so make that budget due by the beginning of June, since we both start June through September.
Would the budget need to be in before we start asking money for people, or would we always be like doing our vendor fees would always be based off what was from last year's?
From the
basically?
previous year.
Okay.
That's how I've been doing it in the past, and I found
Right.
that works for me to budget-wise. I adjust that budget based on what we had last year and what I try to strive for. So I always put a percentage in there, and I think last year I did a 10% increase is always for my vendors. I try to get 10% more vendors there. Just
So-
as my,
I guess as a quick question, of the money you brought into Chassel, what percentage of it came in at or before the first day? How much of it came in throughout the rest of the market?
I
And
can
it
get
can be
you
a very
those
it can be a very
numbers.
rough number too. It doesn't need to be exact. But
uh,
just and that's more of curiosity than anything. I'm curious how much. I assume, if I had to guess, well over 60% pay up front.
yeah, I think we're sitting at probably around, I was gonna say 75, 80% based on what I'm,
Okay.
like I have dates of when people put stuff in.
So over the next 2 months, we'll get a pretty good idea
Of what it would be. And two, like, if we want to try to work together to put one form together and put it on KMA's site for the
Yeah.
hearing, once we know what comes out of the meeting on Monday, so then we have so when you fill out your guys' forms for Chassel, like, you only fill out one form instead of having to fill out separate forms. I
That
think
would be
that's-
nice, especially if we're gonna do this discount thing. It'll need to be on the same form.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, well, that would save me work on multiple treasurer's sides of things.
Yes, and that's the other thing is we start making this
Yeah.
easier for everyone by having it be more consolidated.
Um,
Because that's my thing with from the ground, like consolidating it should have brought the price down and everything, not increase the price and everything. So like
Right.
clearly there was some like scalability issues with that organization that we need to fix here.
The other side is
They
with that
have
one.
paid,
They just have too much paid staff.
I'm like, they had,
That's-
all of their staff is paid, right, is that it?
Yeah,
I don't
which
know.
is-
I thought it
which
was
is
sketchy
good.
that at the end of the last season, they went and asked everyone how much they made, and I feel like their decision was based off of that line of questioning.
They
It
did-
felt-
That's where they got that
Transparency
150.
wise, they put that in their newsletter and some of the things that they sent out. They actually sent out numbers for vendors. I do have that in an email. They showed like how much came in on coins, how much that they were getting in Snap, and they broke it up per market too. They didn't just do overall.
It's interesting they
They
post
did.
that.
They did do that.
So they
Okay.
post
So
that
I'm
because
thinking,
they're applying to grants. So as someone who's
Yes.
written a lot of
Okay.
grants,
Right.
that's
So I just
your
missed that
deliverables
stuff.
right there.
Yeah.
Oh, here's our metrics of how well
Yes.
we've
The-
done.
the-
But, and vendors were asking for it, because we're like, where the hell's all of our money going?
Well, there's some
Explain
other
this to
stuff we're
me.
asking for too.
Yeah, a lot more things, but yeah, absolutely.
That's why it's
that was a
interesting,
big
huh?
one.
They'll divulge what gets them grants, but they won't divulge
Well,
what.
some of the other things
Yeah.
that we've asked questions about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
funny how that works.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I think of too is that I want to know is the Saturday markets on the green, is that going to be the same market essentially as the winter market, or is that gonna be a separate market with, like, for budget, for accounting purposes and for the filling out the form, when they check the $40 or $50 for the
That was
season for Hancock,
first
does
year.
that include
It was that.
the winter market,
That's
or
what
is that
Judge
just
Snyder
the
got
summer
paid.
Tory?
I think it'd be just the summer.
Right.
Okay.
Because the winter markets, I feel like, are always gonna have different costs, because
But
I think it's gonna cost us
last
more to do
summer,
the winter
they paid
markets
18 an hour.
because of these leasing fees that I keep getting.
Mm-hmm.
You do the math.
They wanted $120 out of us initially per day
That's
out of
why you
Hancock
don't
Community
wanna-
Hub, and I said, that's
you don't
outlandish,
wanna
that's never
put
gonna
all
happen.
the
And
money
she's like, well, what about 80? And I was like,
Yes,
as long as we have a dozen
Keweenaw is
vendors,
going
we should be able to
to-
squeak that. And we did until that last
Yes.
like month, and
Yeah.
then it all
Be
just
the
kind of
initial
unraveled there.
Yeah.
bucket, yes.
but-
Can we go to
going
their board ahead of time?
split
To
it
the,
out between the
is that
markets.
independent with that building? Because the Right Start UP, they run all that, right?
Yeah.
Couldn't we go to their board?
We could,
And-
but I more or less went to their board.
Okay.
Mina, Jamie, and Sarah Lottie.
Right, yeah.
But I think Sarah's like working so hard to try to get that like cost neutral right now. But what I'd like to do is next year be like, look, we're a nonprofit.
Right.
$80 was tight. Can you do just $50 flat
And
each
plus
day?
you have me, I'm a tenant in the building, so.
So we'll have follow-up.
You know what I
discussions
mean?
with
Like,
them
feel
in the time.
free to use me if
I
if
certainly
you need
will.
to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm an actual tenant in the building, I get.
So on our
I would
form,
hope that stands for something, you know?
And when it comes to the next season
The next
negotiations,
season, absolutely,
yeah, we
yeah.
definitely will be. Because
Absolutely.
ideally, we can have it just be directly, like as soon as September goes to October,
We just.
Just
boom,
move right on
inside.
in there,
That would
ideally.
be pretty optimal.
so would that be something that the fee, when we say we have a $500 fee for Chassel and whatever fee the green's gonna cost us, can we include that in the Portage Health, saying, hey, the indoor Tory costs us this much for the season as well?
oh,
Because then
right,
it is
yeah,
our
okay.
fee, like,
just
hey,
asking for a full year of.
How much is it gonna
Just to get
cost
us off, like,
That-
yeah,
that's
can we
a
do our?
great-
well, that's what I'm thinking, like, all these
Yeah.
costs keep coming up, and if we could have that sponsored,
Right.
essentially,
Right, yeah.
that would be huge.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll change
That's
my
good.
verbiage to also include like, hey, can you sponsor us not only for the summer markets but also the winter? And
Yeah.
some of them may say, because I know that right now because they screwed up a grant for the produce, they thought it was going to go for another year. It ended up being done at the end of the year, and they made all these promises to buy produce from people. So they want to put a millage on to help fund Copper Shores' Meals on Wheels program because they basically didn't.
But that-
They screwed up a
that-
multi-million-dollar grant basically.
They didn't screw it up, it was the feds that said no.
The feds pulled it back early?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, Meals on Wheels is one
Yes.
of the things getting cut at the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
Yes.
I thought they just messed up with the grant deadline.
No, it has to do with the whole Doge thing.
Yeah,
Oh, so it
they
got
cut
cut.
that, so they have to
Subject to-
reapply and,
Oh, so
yeah.
so
They basically cut their project right in the,
So,
Oh,
so,
okay. I did not know that.
so things like the produce that they were already pre-approved to purchase, the federal government is not reimbursing them for that.
Gotcha.
So no, it came from the federal level, not,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So now they're trying to basically stopgap it with local millage. To,
Yeah.
Yeah, why would we want our elderly people fed? That is extreme sarcasm.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Let's not.
Sorry.
Right, right. I was just curious. I had no
Yeah,
idea that it was
that's, yeah, that's
connected
what
to
happened, yeah.
that. Okay.
It's
So-
okay.
Yeah, wasn't there control?
I was pushing earlier. It's okay.
So going back to the reason why I asked this question was when we create the form for signing up this year,
right.
do we have the 3 markets stated on there, and can people sign up for all 3?
Nah, because
Or
I
just
want
the
I need to
two?
get other details figured out with the winter
Yeah.
market,
Okay.
the costs and everything.
And
And
then
plus, I don't want to hold people
Yeah.
like.
Maybe that's something we try next year, but I don't see it happening this year.
Yeah.
And then I think even that is if each market has their own committee, that's something that the Hancock committee, whenever it's formed, people that are under the subcommittee can kind of
Yeah, do the
figure how they
legwork
want
on
to
that.
deal with the Hancock into summer, winter. You know, maybe even Hancock's summer vendor fees, if there's an overage, you know, some of it could be split off to returning if you also do the winter one.
Yeah, we
It
have
sounds like
to
it's the
decide
We
if
talked about that in the
Hancock is
Hancock committee
1 or
before.
2 markets.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like we need to see how much money we can fundraise, how much we can get donated, how much we can get in grants, how much we take in, and then we answer all these questions.
Yeah.
And then we save ourselves some time today.
And then it's easier too because it's Hancock's, whoever's on the committee is kind of dealing with Hancock's market rather than
And I take it you'll be
Coming
on the
from-
Hancock committee as
coming
well.
from the perspective of Castle, me
That
telling
makes sense.
Hancock, here's what you gotta do in Hancock. I guess I did do it in Hancock for years too, but it's just, you know,
I'm kind of in that funky place. My business is out of Lake County, but I do a lot here in Hancock. So
Yeah, so, and it's not like it's paid or like it's gonna be a 40-hour week job or something like that.
I'm kind of excited because for the Saturday morning, because it's almost like it's going all the way around. Because
That would be
Hancock
the
Burn
hope,
Used
right?
to be the Wednesday and Saturday mornings. That's when.
see, I thought there were 2 days
There was
originally,
Wednesday and
and
Saturday.
Saturday, right? That's what I thought.
2010 is when we started getting those ones.
Yeah, I heard rumors of these 2 days.
So
So.
Thursday needs to become almost needs to become a morning market to, if it's gonna survive going in, but
Yeah.
who's gonna pay 3 times as much for a weekday market?
Well, no, but it's hard, but cause see that the afternoon one, the Thursday afternoon one, the majority of the vendors wanted it to be in the afternoon and work better.
Oh, that was, so it was vendor
It
driven.
was vendor driven.
Okay.
Yeah, they sent out the thing too. They only have like what, 10 spots or something like that. They
Yeah.
show like how many spots they have available. It's only like 10
For
spots.
Hancock?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it showed. 9 or 10
Fit 30
spots.
people in there.
No,
Because Deb
Nine.
has so many more spots available.
There was,
Deb-
yeah,
Deb
both sides of the
Oh, yeah,
sidewalk were
right,
loaded,
right.
both sides of the sidewalk were loaded. There must have been 20 big.
yeah.
All right, so
Right. At the Apex, it was 20,
Yeah.
24.
Then it seemed like there was
Vendors.
sidewalk from the road almost to the steps. and both
Right,
sides were-
right. Right.
Soon,
All right.
the days will return.
So goals for this week, just so I can keep my head on straight. We're gonna set up a bank account and get that started. We are going to get a form that has both summer markets in there so people can start signing up by next weekend. And, we are going to announce what our rates are, advertise what the rates are, get some information and flyers going. I will have a flyer to you for Monday's meeting. And as for the craft ones, arts and crafts, we're letting the markets decide. So
Right.
Chassel, we will come out and say that we are staying with our new current and drop-in rates.
Yeah.
Just so it's stayed out there.
Right.
Hancock can decide what they're gonna do when you guys
Most
form
likely
your-
we push off to next year, just so that
Okay.
advertising go out as soon as possible and it's standardized for now. We can
Okay.
get into if there's differences between the two later. For
Okay.
simplicity's sake, and again, for the artist, like,
It's a trial and error year.
if I'm the one
If we
standing
find
there,
something that works, we can piggyback on that next year.
yeah, and there's always spur of the moment, like, there could be, I could just decide, I could,
Yep,
no, you don't have to pay anything at all.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
figure it out.
yep. Is it possible that you can get me access to either a folder on the Google,
Yeah.
on the KMA Google?
So yeah, I'll share all that stuff with you. Well, yeah, because you three should have access to all that stuff. I'll also give you access to the Google site if you want.
I'm just trying to make it easier for you so that we can all work on things. Because I
Yes.
know that you're busy, it's just like.
Well, for the next 2 weeks, like, I'm not busy.
Oh, okay.
I'd like
That's
to be
exciting.
busy in the next 2 weeks, but in the meantime,
Okay,
so I think it's good. So with that being
Yeah.
said, if you want to schedule the bank, and then because your schedule is less flexible than mine right now.
okay,
So if you want to schedule the bank, I can start working on the Google form for you
perfect.
and upload it to the website. My only question is, do we offer anything like, do you need electricity or anything like that, or is it just bare bones?
I do bare bones, and if I really try not to do the electricity thing. If we
It's a
can not
pain.
use, yeah, if we can say we don't offer electricity, then we have more to push back on saying with Chesil that, hey, why are you raising our rates? We didn't, because last year we didn't use electricity. And
No,
they-
there was not a single vendor there that used.
It's
The
just too much
last
effort.
2 weeks I had the one guy come sharpen.
Oh,
No, yeah,
the
yeah.
And that
sharpening
was
guy.
it.
That's it, yeah.
So 2 weeks of running his thing, very little.
You're right,
It's like-
yeah, that was really lonely.
So yeah, so I
do we
would
just not
say,
mention it and just let the vendors follow up with us?
yeah, I would say,
If
you
they
know, reach out
absolutely
to
need
that.
it, they will ask.
Yeah,
They'll
and
figure
reach
it
out
out.
to that market, and I would say, let's put that information in there. If you need to reach out to Chassel Market, this is how you get a hold of Chassel Market. If you wanna reach out to
Yeah.
Hancock
Hancock.
Terrary.
It's a pain to get electricity at Hancock because they have to tap into the street lights.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's what I was saying, like, I don't really like to offer it,
It's
so.
just easy to get generator, hey, doesn't he have a
Right.
generator?
Yeah, so if they need to, they can do their own thing, but I would,
Yeah, for
Sing and then.
well, he needed it for the markets in Chicago,
Okay, yeah.
because they didn't really offer
Oh.
electric.
and I'll get
Or
you
it
the
was so
quote.
expensive that.
So I'll
it
send
made
that
no
out to the
sense.
group for a quote for the tote bags.
And then we'll wanna go up in tote bags.
It's a nice
Yeah.
way.
Probably 200, I guess, so 100 for each market. How many did you have
Well,
left over at
We
Chassel?
had none left over. That lasted
Oh,
me
yeah, we're done with
the first 2 weeks,
super
right?
long
And,
generator.
Yeah.
and I had the vendors be able to put
Really?
stuff in. Yep.
Yep.
And
So
that's
should
it.
we go up to 300?
Well, let's see what we can do. So, like, my thought was is on the Google form, if we want to, and this is what I was gonna do for Chassel, have an area and a special QR code for them to do, hey, I wanna donate X amount and get my logo on the bag. So
Right.
then it's not just the Chassel market or in the Hancock Tory market, but like
We
have
have to
the
get on
vendors
that
be
really
able to.
soon though, like
Yep.
ASAP.
Oh, yeah, that.
Well,
yeah.
and I was able to order those 2 weeks before the market, and they showed up. Like that was a 2 week turnaround before the market started last
So basically,
year.
we want to give ourselves a 3-week buffer.
That would
make
be
sure.
nice, and so we can let vendors know, hey, like I'm not calling the night before. Hey, I had this idea.
Dang it, Maria.
Well, I guess on that.
I guess, yeah, I could print out something quick.
Yeah, the double tail, she had all the keychains.
They were awesome.
They
But
were
yes.
awesome.
So how much for a standard business card size logo on the bag?
Well, that's what I'm gonna get you a
Oh,
quote.
you'll
so
run the
will-
numbers on that?
Yep, I'm gonna get you a
See
quote.
how many you can
for
fit,
that.
and then, because I'm not like, ideally, like, if we can collect $1,000 from different people
Right.
for $300 worth of bags, like,
Does,
awesome.
does KMA have a problem with having a donation option on our Google form for people that want to donate, or do we want to have it on a separate part of the website?
No, we should
Donate
have a
to our
separate
market bag.
donation, yeah.
Okay.
Or, well, to the organization in general, or to the market bags or sponsorship?
Well, let's.
Because we'll
let's
want
do
a
it
general
out
one for the
there.
organization, yes,
Yeah.
especially once we're a 501c3, we can get tax
Yeah.
deductions.
So can we do that? Can we have a page that says for the KMA in general, and then have another like?
Yeah,
donate to
we
the
do
market
like
bag?
a support page. We
Yeah.
do that, and then a sponsorship page. We'd split those
Okay.
two up. Yeah,
So
sponsorship.
I motion that we have a sponsorship page for the market bags for both Hancock and Chassel for marketing purposes.
That
I
sounds good.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then I'll once we have the rough numbers, I'll cold call the businesses
Okay.
to ask them, and we'll get that figured out. Because I'd like to think between the bags and just us personally donating to this organization, that I'd like to think a lot of this can be covered.
Yeah.
So we got a vote on, we got the fees, we got 18 and under, each of the
Yep.
markets will handle their arts or craft, artist
Right.
things. Do we need a vote on the political thing? I mean, obviously,
I think
I
as
vote
the,
in agree right now.
right, as the organization, I think we have to have that as a policy for any market. So yes, I will make a motion that any obvious political organization is not allowed to
Represent at the markets.
be a vendor at, or have a booth at the market.
Should we say as well, they're not allowed to be a sponsor on any marketing materials?
And they cannot,
It's better to be
Right.
unaffiliated.
and this is, and I think we agree on this, this isn't to say, this isn't to say people can't petition like they've done before, or pass flyers and all they've done before. It's just not sanctioned by the marketer under the auspices of.
right,
Yeah.
I mean, the League of Women Voters, they could come in and there's a petition and they
can
so-
walk around, but they cannot have a booth.
Well,
at-
League of Women Voters is actually a very a nonpartisan
Organization.
organization.
Yeah, I was thinking about
women
it.
voting
It's
period.
tangentially connected though. It's
Right.
definitely a gray area, and
It's still a political
It-
organization, you know.
yeah, to me that's why we would just say
Right.
all political organizations, and then it prevents any of this gray area because you may say it's apolitical, but there could be people there be like, well, I don't think it's apolitical, and
I would say it's very political.
yeah, so it comes.
Even though it's, you know, just like if you were to have I mean, you could put I don't know, somebody have a face at Trump and walk around and say, I'm not political, I'm just promoting orange hair or whatever, you know. Well, yeah, you're getting.
It's the insinuation of it. It's
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I
I
think
think if
just
there's-
saying no political because I don't want to have to deal with it's like, well, I heard these people are in the organization, and it's like,
We
well,
do have
okay.
organizations up here like the Keweenaw Queers and things like that too, so I don't
And
know
I-
if those would land.
Is that political though?
I think it,
You know what I mean?
general-
Like that is one
Right.
of
I
those
mean, well, at that
rights
point,
where
then I would use the verbiage no political or activist.
Activist,
organization.
that-
So
that would
way,
be
Greenpeace, Save the Whales.
Yeah,
we say
they would
we
be
support the
considered an
whales, but
act- right.
in order to keep things neutral and not have to deal with blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah. So I would like to change the verbiage to political or activist organizations. Like it's a market, and that's what its mission and
Right.
purpose is. Yeah,
Right.
like we're not getting nonprofit status from the government
Yeah.
to create other entries for other things to get in there. Like
Yeah.
can we create a blurb that we can have just as a market manager to be able to say if someone approaches me that I can just copy and paste the blurb out there? 'Cause
Yeah,
I
and it
have-
would be on the
I have
website.
tried to, on the Chassel side, try to create the same verbiage every time so that I'm not being one more than the other, and I even
I'm
have
sure
to
it
go
can
back
create
and look
something.
emails.
Me and Chat GPT or something can have a talk. I'm sure we
Okay.
can
we
figure
would-
out like you know what I mean, like a good language to
Yeah.
put that in. I'm
Yeah,
sure we
and
can.
then
yeah.
you just put
Yeah.
under market policy, and then
Yeah.
you say like, as a vendor, you're basically agreeing to like leave it at the door. You're here to sell carrot. Like
Yeah.
again, private conversations that you have with members of the public. We're not here to regulate that. It's just
Right.
for our own to indemnify ourselves from any affiliation. Blah blah blah. That's all.
Yeah.
Right.
And as an official function sanctioned by the market, you know, even though I disagree with Senator Green, she has a right to come and pass her flyers out to individual vendors.
Yeah.
She can't set her table.
Yeah, we're not going to throw her out of the market.
And we can even put a
Walk
sentence
around.
saying it's like, you know, we welcome First Amendment discourse, but just remember that this is a market for such and such. You know, just kind of put a disclaimer out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that way it's in good faith as well. Because that's another thing I want to be about this market organization. It's like our rules are more of rules to allow for smooth and open dialogue, more so than anything. So
Yeah, and I think
that sounds good.
I think, yeah, keeping everything, we are here for the community, and this is for the, I just wrote something on the Chassel one.
We'll
Hold
go
on,
out, we'll go out on this. Will be a good. You're going to be our crescendo, Mariah.
Yeah, all right.
So
Yeah,
I'll
because
second your motion of
No political or
activist organization.
Yeah, because that way we don't have to deal with this like 6 degrees of separation
Right.
that's going to come out from it. Because yeah, like now that I think about it, yeah, there's all sorts of organizations that you could like loosely like
Could very easily accidentally fall into that or whatever. Then it's just a
Depending on your
blanket.
viewpoint.
Well, it even makes me wonder like a hunting club, like could a hunting club even like tangentially? Because it's like you go to any hunting club and it's like you already know what 90% of the people there are into. So like,
Right.
But hunting in and of itself,
It's
should
not,
not be a
it's just an outdoor
politicized or
activity.
even an activist
Yeah,
thing.
it's
But
just an outdoor activity.
but it's not market related either. So
Right. Committee
It's-
discretion would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the market committees can do the fine details. But yeah, I think if we leave it to just politics and activism, I think that's a broad enough stroke that we can let the minutia be handled on a smaller level.
So what I just wrote on, when I was doing our new layout area for Chassel, I wrote underneath like our policy of finding our spots, and that I said respect each other, the community, and work together to maintain the family-like feeling we work so hard to offer you with minimal cost to you and the vendors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a nice little.
And we hope that those people's Thanksgiving family gatherings aren't like Goodfellas or any other like nightmare scenario or something.
well, I worked really hard to make it feel like a family in Chassel, and I really want to maintain that feeling like a family because that's why people come to the market, and they do enjoy sitting around and talking to the vendors and standing around and bringing their kids there because it does feel like a family and they don't have to worry about, is my
To say the
kid
least,
gonna
the
do-
day Lakeland and brought the Republican Party out. It
Right.
got the market was slow, we lost, like, I just think it made everybody uncomfortable, whatever
Oh,
the
it was
affiliation
horrible.
was. It was just uncomfortable, and I think it did affect business that day.
Yeah,
not
it
because
doesn't
of
matter
who
which side
they
you bring,
are.
like, it's gonna.
It's just you have this entity that happens to be the place that's not really
Yeah.
the place
Even
for
when I
it.
agree with them, I'm kind of like, hey, I
Right.
agree with you, but what are you doing here? Like
It
you're,
was-
you're
yeah.
undermining your own position by being here right now, and I agree with you, so I want you to stop undermining what you're feeling. So if you could just.
Right, yes, exactly.
All right.
Glad
We
we're
have
in
lots of
agreement.
goals. I
Yes,
motion
and
to
it saves our
end our
Second.
meeting. We're good.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Another hour.
Zach, you can stay by yourself if you want. If you want to stay.
I like the sound of my voice. Another hour.